It's the May 22nd meeting of the ISWM Building Committee. Take a quick attendance. I'll note Peter, Greg, Tom, Nolan are in person. Ken and Catherine, I see them up on the
Hi.
screen. How you guys doing?
Thank you. How are you?
And I believe I'm present as well.
Excellent.
First order is minutes of the last meeting. Any comments on the minutes of the last meeting?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a mistake, but on page 4, there's reference to Maureen near the top of the page, about the third, fourth line. Is there Maureen, or is that my name? Silence.
That was Marlene.
Yep.
Fine.
Marlene.
No, I didn't see Maureen at the meeting. Maybe I missed something.
No, that's correct. That is Marlene.
Pretty good, I read them.
Right? Good catch.
That was a test, you passed.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anything else? Nothing? Motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Ken?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Good. And I'm gonna hand it over to,
So OPM
Neil.
update for
Yep.
today. We are continuing communication with Mass DOT for coordination and permitting needs. That work is ongoing. I would anticipate, based on the initial response from the DOT, it'll be ongoing for quite a while. But we will continue to reach out and build that bridge for permitting requirements. Ace, I don't have the agenda in front of me. The other item, I think, was just the payment of bills.
yes, project invoices. I think before we get to that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about DOT. So we haven't, I don't think everybody knows, but we reached out to DOT to set up a meeting, and they came back to us wanting, traffic control plan, clearing plan, grading plan, this and that, and everything else. They kind of just, it felt like they just threw everything at us just to, like, come here, get away from me, sort of thing. So I think we were gonna go back to them,
Yes.
right, and just say, hey, look, we just want to create just a preliminary project meeting just to see who the applicant is and who, how this is all structured, how people get paid. Is the one question was, is the gas company, they appear to be the applicant, do they pay for everything up front and then back charge us in the end? I don't know, we don't know how that works. So we're trying to figure that out, but I don't think we've gotten back to them since their response.
Initial
response.
No, we'll get that out this week.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so project invoices.
Invoices?
Yeah,
So I believe included in your package was our payment recommendation letter. They are for schematic design services for both CMS and Helene Carl Architects. Happy to entertain any questions that you have relative to those bills.
So I don't think any of us have been privy to the contract. Is there anything in the contract on like deliverables? What's supposed to be?
well, you guys should have the contract. I can get it to you if you don't have it.
I haven't seen it.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll.
Neil,
hold
do
on
you have a copy, right?
They do.
They're like, just making sure that we're following the contract.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah, because I'm having
Thanks, Greg. I actually looked for it as well, so would you send it to me as well?
Yep, I will send it out to
Okay.
everybody, and maybe we'll just we'll hold on to this for now, and then we'll, at the next meeting, you get, I'll send you the contract tomorrow, and that'll give you.
Well, what are the payment terms? Like what, obviously there's payment terms. Can we hold it that long?
Yeah.
Obviously, they want to get paid.
I have no
We
objection.
requested this actually earlier than.
Right.
You guys, I know you, Greg, you bill at a little longer time frame usually, so we've requested this a little bit early. We wanted to, wanted each section, schematic design, design development, rather than waiting until the end and writing one big check and finding
Right,
out something
yeah.
right, so. I'll make sure everybody has a copy of the contract, we can review it, we'll approve it at the next meeting,
It's fine.
and we'll move on. You got, Greg, you're good with that? Okay.
Is it in the invoice so we can see of the money that was appropriated versus what's been spent in a month so we can keep track?
Well, I think that's on the bill, isn't
You know,
it?
it's, I mean, if we
Yeah,
get the
it's on the
with
bill
it,
that
yeah.
they sent.
Like I said, I couldn't open it up.
I will say this is in line and with everything that's been set forth up until this point, so. It appeared to me anyway, so.
Okay.
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 I mean, I don't have a problem approving it if that's the case.
Contingent
but
upon?
just Sort of,
Yeah, we could do that, and we'll just, well, let's take a look at the, let me get the contract out to everybody, and then we'll get back, at the next meeting.
They don't mind waiting.
What's that?
But you said it's early, so it's not like we're late.
Yeah, we'll be prompt at the next meeting, and, I'll get the contract out to everybody, and, yeah, we'll go from there, we'll approve it at the next meeting.
Works for me.
same thing for Neil's.
What's that?
Same thing for Neil's.
Yes, yeah, they're kind of together
Yeah.
in one.
210, 130. 210, 130.
All right, so I'll get that out to everybody, and we'll move forward with that at the next meeting. Designer update. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
A little sunny out there. I had to put some sunscreen
Yeah.
on today. Shall we start if you're asking us? Thank you, have that thumbs up?
Yeah.
So while Mike's,
Sure can.
while
If you wouldn't
Mike's-
mind leaving my thumb drive in, that would be good.
while Mike is getting that set up, basically at the last meeting, my understanding is that the site plan was basically approved. I know there's some finessing and details that we have to do on it, but the basic concept was approved. I know we're having Peter Glick now work on getting the preliminary grading plan done.
Yes.
So that you can do your prep of the site. And then, obviously, we'll start to look in more immediate process of getting all the details. Are there any questions about the site plan? And we can get your comments about some crosswalks and things like that, so that will all be incorporated. All right.
I
Just
know.
the south, west corner of the garage, how that relates to where the tanks and maybe a generator pad would go.
Yeah, we were discussing a little bit about, because of the sound, what brought this up was the sound study that is
Okay.
part of our site assignment application, or site suitability application. Any thoughts on where the generator, the backup generator might go? We had told them on the south gable end of basically the maintenance garage.
Right.
And for now, that's,
Are
I
you talking about
think.
this area here?
Correct.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, is that
And that's where the tanks are, the acetylene
logical
tanks?
Yes.
place?
So there was like a wall where the gravel road is, that, how do you get around the corner to the back
Yeah, we'll
of
have
the
to
building?
Make a little,
This is, you're saying that little bit. Yeah, we can work those grades out.
yeah, maybe just a little gravel access
Yes.
pad there or something.
Again, those would be one of those items that we call a detail.
Oh, yeah, you're getting into the weeds, but, yeah.
What's
And-
the
and
So we
sound
did have to
study?
call out a place for it in our permitting process.
So it's part of the overall permitting?
It is part of the site assignment process for the 12-acre parcels, and that's a solid waste permit, basically. It's our overarching permit that'll allow us to construct solid waste handling operations on that parcel. So, you know, we have to do a sound study. There's a lot of pieces to it, but the two pieces that we were working on, one was that the MIPA piece that we mentioned relative to like the impervious areas and the site layout. The other one was a sound study. We had Kavanaugh Tachi come out and basically place recording devices at all four corners and just do a background sound study. So part of that sound study was, you know, a backup generator, and we kind of just picked that location for now. It seemed to be logical, kind of out of the way, and, you know, not going to bother anybody on its weekly startups and things like that, so. So everybody's on the same page.
And you said you had I had suggested some crosswalk locations, you have those, and then the
Yes.
pathways to the transfer station and the residential. Okay, perfect, thank you.
As far as the generator, have you decided you want it on the south end? Because the other option would be to put it in that green area near the fuel island.
Yeah,
I mean, because again, that kind of gets it away from, so you're not, you know, bouncing any sound off the facade of a building or anything.
We can move the transfer switch anywhere, right? You know, just put the generator wherever you want to put it.
seems a little bit tighter on the south side, just, you know, less underground stuff running around, you know, you're right up next to the
Okay,
building.
that's fine.
Yeah, there's nobody on that side of the,
Yeah,
I mean, that would make more sense to me.
As long as it's accessible, so you can do your services
Yeah.
and stuff, and you do your tests.
a little more out of the
I might hear it in
way.
my office, but,
What's
I
that?
said I might hear it at my office.
Maybe, we might be a little bit. I mean, how loud are, you know, the generators? I mean, natural gas, is it equivalent to a diesel? Or they're much quieter, right?
Isn't it gonna be a diesel generator? Or are you gonna go gas?
Gas.
Yeah, this is just standby, this isn't life safety, so it would just be gas.
What, 44 kilowatt? How big are you looking?
I don't know. We'll have to determine what's.
I assume you're gonna want a whole building,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so.
Well, weren't we thinking though, also, it would be connected to the power for the transfer station, the residential area too? So we're connecting all of those, so we have a 300 KW at the flare,
Yep.
which may be bigger than what you're talking about here,
Let,
but
let's, because we don't, the transfer station loading is so minimal. I mean, but let's see what we need for the building, and then we're kind of
Right.
shooting in the dark with the transfer station and everything else, so it's not even built for another,
Well, let's just talk, okay.
yeah. I
You
don't want-
you basically have a 7 to 3, 9 to 5 kind of operation, and I say that loosely just because I'm thinking you're operating most of the time during the daylight,
Yes.
the primary operation. So even if I were a resident or something, taking my trash or something to the recycling area, the bottom line on it is that's basically a daytime operation and everything. So, and because you're not a critical operations in the sense that, you know, during inclement weather or something, you're probably minimizing what activities happen there. I mean, I know you're still doing the landfill operations, but you probably aren't worried about residents, you know, worried, you know, delivering their recycling, and you can control that. So,
you'd be surprised, ironically.
In the middle of a
people wanna come
snowstorm?
Let's not get bogged down here.
so,
Let's-
but I guess what I'm trying to
I
get
don't
at.
want to get into, you
If,
know,
if this were a critical, like a DPW or a police station, then obviously you would need a, you know, full house generator up and run. But the fact that you're going with natural gas, and the question is what's over in the residential area that necessarily needs power?
it's really just the guard shack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guard shack,
It's
right?
very, very
Okay.
minimal, yeah.
It's a
And
light
then
plug.
Heat maybe,
The
you know.
transfer station, so.
I think what we did with the one intermediate schools, we did a different fuel source, 'cause like if the gas was shut down, I think the generator is oil, you know, like it's a 300-gallon tank, I think, in the ground for it, gets in case the gas doesn't come in, so is it worth looking at have an alternative energy source just for the energy, you know, just for the generator, just in case, you
And
know?
was the school designated as a shelter?
Warming Center,
Yeah, that's why I had that, but I don't think these guys do
No.
that, no.
Well, I would suggest we go with a single fuel source, whether it's diesel or gas, for your generator, and not try to do dual fuels and mix them and everything else. Again, based on what everybody's telling me, there's nothing critical here other than to keep your operations up and running. And if there is a slight interruption or something, I mean, you can deal with it, it sounds like. Yeah, so,
Do you have a separate alternate fuel source for your, your fire pump out of your cistern? Is that its own standby
diesel.
power source? Okay,
It's all diesel, yeah.
okay.
That's portable, but
Yeah,
longer term, that's a big question if we're gonna be able to, portable. Right?
well, the fire pump will definitely need a generator or its own source. And if you have that pump station up the road there, I mean, that's probably already on the generator and doing its
actually-
own thing.
Yeah,
And-
well, that, you know, it's not, it's kind of a long story, there's a lot of
Okay.
interwoven pieces there, but,
Well, the fact
for
that
now,
it's,
I don't want to get out in the weeds on.
well, no,
this.
I mean, I
It's
guess
kinda-
the only reason I'm saying that is we are going to have to talk about that as far as because that's also going to be used as fire suppression for your building, or are we going to still try to take that off the water main?
The idea would be to take that off the water
Okay,
main, yeah.
so,
If we can, I wouldn't want our building to be tied into the fire suppression
okay.
system and having a dry system and everything, or even a wet system that we have to.
Okay. So fire suppression will be for the building will be off the main, assuming that they always maintain the pressure, and we can get a, flow test on that to
Yep.
make that determination. And then, yes, everything else would be, it's not critical, it's not life safety per se. I mean, yes, I understand the transfer station people are going, but it's not like it's,
No,
the same
no.
level.
Yeah. The facility is an essential operation though, so it is, this will maintain the operations at our scale
Mhm.
via, network connection possibly, and that's the problem that we have is some of our wireless network connections get interrupted right now. That may not be the case once we sort out some of this fiber stuff we're working on, and where the fiber is gonna go on this site, but,
So, but I guess the question is there a reason why you wouldn't want a diesel generator versus the gas generator? Because at that point, I know a lot of the DPWs, what they'll do is they'll put like a 3-day supply on the diesel generator, and if there's a problem, they can just take it either out of the tanks or out of their trucks. The
yeah.
generator's running, so if there is an interruption to the gas, so I guess that's my question for you. Is there a reason why you wouldn't want a diesel generator?
Polishing, diesel polishing,
Okay.
fuel polishing.
What's that mean?
Just the fuel going bad, basically. You get algae growth in the fuel. I mean, we've never had an issue with our other generator down at our flare,
Okay.
but,
Not too many gas interruptions either. I mean,
no, right.
I could think of worst case scenario with, if you have a catastrophic storm or whatever, like you think about what happened down south. And so that's why I think we just thought about having an alternative fueling source for it, just in case, just
Yeah.
a fallback. But I don't know if there's a way of setting up an alternative, like an emergency secondary fueling source, so you can keep it going if something is shut down.
Well, the other option, which we do a lot for Eversource, is we will put in the primary generator. We'll also put in a plug for a portable generator to come in. And it's not the kind that you buy at Home Depot.
Yeah.
They'll bring it in on the back of a tractor trailer or something, and then they plug in the buildings so that they don't lose operations that way. It adds money to the project. Again, I think the question is, what's the risk? It sounds like your gas is fairly reliable. You haven't had any issues with that. Your power is fairly reliable. So the generator is really just the insurance policy, as opposed to you'll really be relying on it too much.
We do have 2 tow-behind generators.
Mhm.
We have a 27 kW and a 40 kW generator that we use,
That sounds like a good option, is to have a
just to have a,
port that
yeah.
if you could plug into, kind of like we do now for the office.
it's a fairly inexpensive option too,
Yeah.
if we already have the
Can't
generator.
imagine that, yeah.
That way, if the gas goes out, you can use a
Yeah.
diesel generator that's portable.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
What is a typical 40 kW, would that cover the?
Cover the building? Probably not.
No, I don't think so.
We're probably looking at like a, 250, 300 in
Yeah.
that range for this building. But again, this is just something I will review this with
Continue to
the-
discuss,
the
yeah.
electrical engineer to find out what's best. Because if you are doing the plug-in, maybe there's only certain items that,
Yeah,
well, I mean, again, we don't want to wire this building so complicated.
yeah.
We want to keep it basically simple, kind of all or nothing, but we can see what that means.
Right. Well, now you know what we have available to us, and we can come up with something. And I'll check the, that, I think it's a 40 kW, the bigger one.
Okay. Anything else on the site? If not, Micah, if we can go to the plan then. All right, so this is the building plan that we discussed. Micah, I'll let you make it a little larger so everybody can see. Basically, the takeaway from the last meeting, as we saw it, was the garages were basically fine, the repair garage was fine, and the tweaks really occurred in the office area. If you see at the far left end where we have the plan room, we were asked to expand that back to the original intent of putting the break area back in there. And so you'll see we put in a 8-person table so that you can either lay down plans or people can have breaks and everything there. We slid the conference room down to accommodate that. And then if you may remember, there were some storage closets and the IT closet sitting between those two rooms where the work copy area is. We are proposing, and again, Phil, I saw your comments on it.
I withdraw all those comments. I've spoken to Jason.
Okay.
Just cut to the chase on that.
So we didn't get any comments from Phil on it. He said the plan looked great. So what we've done, and I know there was a concern with everybody, is we put the IT closet at the end of the hallway, which now makes it readily accessible. So, I mean, obviously it'll be under card access and, security, but basically it makes it very easy for if a technician or something needs to come in or work, or your IT group. It's in a clean environment, it'll be conditioned.
Okay, that was my only question, Ace, on that, was that we're gonna have switches rather than racks, but still, just to make sure that Chris from IT at the county is gonna be in touch with you about any conditioning needs, so it doesn't get to be a humid, hot corner with the IT.
Okay, so we do two types of conditioning. First, we do primary building system. So the system that's running the building will pump in air, and then what we do is we put a split system as a backup on it to augment that, so that you have a dual redundancy. So if the main system goes down, the split system kicks on, or if for some reason it gets crazy and you need to run them both, you can, or you open the door, whatever you need to do.
Sounds like I'll take care of it.
Now, where, you said it was down the end of the hallway?
Yeah, so-
I see it.
It's where the
Yeah, where it
janitor's
says
sink
employee,
was.
yeah, right there, yep.
This is hard with the printer.
Did you move the janitor's sink somewhere?
We did. Okay, so we will get into that. So one of the things that Ace doesn't have right now for his operations, but it made sense, is if you look where you see the decontamination room, and you'll see right in the middle, there's the janitor's closet there. Basically what we did is we shuffled the fixtures in there a little. If you remember where the janitor's closet was, used to be the hose-down shower area. And we're sitting there going, you probably don't need that much area. So we moved the janitor's closet there. It has its own sink. You'll be able to put your floor buffers or whatever else you want in there, materials. And then you would just pass through the decontamination room to get it. We're not overly concerned about that because, again, it's not like you're going to be having a shower there every day. And if the floor is a little wet, it's a little wet, but it's all going to drain. We also thought it would be advantageous to do that because depending on what you want to store for supplies for the decontamination room, whether it be soaps or towels or something, it gives you immediate access to storage right off of the janitor's closet. So that is how we address the issue of the janitor's closet, by kind of combining those two operations.
My only concern was to have a spigot low on the floor be able to fill a mop bucket, and then to pour the dirty water from the mopping of the break room in the hallway, rather than lifting it up into a sink.
Yes, no, we always put the floor-mounted sinks. Now, what we do need to just talk about, and again, this is a detail, so in the janitor's closet, we will have the floor-mounted mop sink. So like you said, you just tip the bucket, you don't have to pick it up. We can have the discussion in the decontamination room whether you want a sink at normal standard height so you can wash hands or stuff, or whether you want that as a mop type bucket as well. And we can go either way with that. Obviously, there will be showers, there'll be hose bibs on the decontamination room, however you want to set that up. I'm assuming that it's basically going to be a hose down area, so that you'll have some
For boots and stuff. and
hose, or even a whole person or a piece of equipment or something, if you needed to. You know, so that was the intent on that. So the sink in that area can either be low or it can be high, so I can scrub my, hands or something, like if I get.
And we'll have a heavy-duty drain, maybe with some grit.
Yeah, is there like a little grit trap? like-
Yeah, we'll work all
something
those
like that?
details
Yeah.
out.
Out in the garage, at certain, the area, the service bay where it says sink,
Yes.
I hope that includes an eye wash station, because I know, these people, run up, put a bottle in square, that's not enough,
I think the eye wash is located on the mechanic side of the bay.
Yes, so the idea for that sink that you just mentioned was if I'm, working on the crews, I'm running the dozer or something, I come in, I'm covered with, I can wash my arms and stuff before I bring the dirt into the locker room or the building. What you're talking about is if you notice next to that truck, right there where the cursor is moving,
Yep.
there's a slop sink and an emergency eye wash. That is required by code.
Okay,
Okay, so.
Tempered water.
Tempered water, the whole 9 yards. So the issue that comes up here is, we can put you in emergency eye wash and shower in the vehicle storage, but I don't know if it makes sense or will ever be used. In the mechanics bay, we have to, so we're just doing that.
The services, we're most likely gonna have a possibility if you get
Yeah.
something in your eye, that's the closest.
Absolutely.
But
Is there a way to cover it, or just the covers that come with it?
It comes with the little covers that you pop off for your eyes, and then you pull a chain and it showers on you. It's like one of the rain
You
heads
just
on.
gotta maintain it clean. It's always, it's dirty.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like tested once a month. It's supposed to
Yep.
test it like once a month, so that's supposed to
Right,
keep it.
and DPW mentioned you might wanna have, if we did the testing and it spilled over onto the, is there a drain nearby?
We put a floor drain.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make that a checklist to keep it clean and tested.
You're gonna maintain your building, Phil?
Yeah.
Well, that will be unusual.
Yeah.
So, not referring to your organizations, I just, well, one of the DPWs we did, the guy insisted that it was well-maintained. And when you went out the back door, there was a little tree growing out of the back door, which had about a 4-inch caliber trunk. And he says, oh yeah, we trim the weeds and everything regularly. I go, I don't think so, because that 4-inch caliber doesn't happen overnight.
It's not a weed, it's a tree.
It's a tree, you're right, I'm sorry.
It's a different union.
Anybody, Nolan, any thoughts on anything?
No, I think it's good. There's some extra eye wash stations, that's fine.
The heat there, you gonna put some Modines up in the ceiling or have radiant heat
No,
in
we
the floor?
talked about it's all gonna be radiant floor heat.
Okay.
So the vehicle repair, the vehicle storage is gonna be radiant floor heat, so you won't have any issues with that. There'll be some ventilation fans, they're just little 42-inch fans that just circulate the air every now and there if it gets stratified. As we all know, as soon as you open those 14 by 16 doors, Mike? 16 by 16, you pretty much let all the heat out anyway. That's why going with the radiant floor heat is advantageous, because most of the heat will be retained in the thermal mass of that slab, which is going to be 8 to 12 inches, depending. The garage side will probably be 12 inches. The vehicle storage will be about 8 inches. And they'll be insulated underneath, so you should always be able to keep the temperature in that building pretty much where you want. And we target for the vehicle storage around 55 degrees. And then in the garage, we usually go from closer to like 65 degrees. So those will be zoned accordingly. The office area will have VRFs, so you'll have both the heating and cooling, which will be all electric with the systems. And they'll have individual cassettes in each of the office. So if Asa wants to turn on the air conditioning and Phil wants to turn on the heat, you both can run your system
Thank you.
accordingly.
We've had the battle of the
It's
temperature,
the thermostat wars.
thermostat wars.
Yeah, well, we've learned that at all the higher ed work that we've done. Professors are a lot worse than you guys. At least two of you can agree on something. I've yet to find two professors to agree on anything.
And these are heat pumps with the fans will be in the mezzanine somewhere
Yes, yes.
quiet again.
Correct.
Who does the cleaning?
Well, that's gonna be part of, we've talked about that, and that'll be part of the facilities.
I mean, I'm just a little uncomfortable just because of the name decontamination and somebody else having an issue with that, like, you know, a
Well,
third
we can call
party
it the
coming in.
cleanup room. Is that better?
So what I mean, do you really have contaminants?
Yeah, I mean, you have ash on your boots, you have stuff like that. I
I
think
mean, I'm
the
just thinking, you know, what
room
if,
has merit for sure.
Oh, mud
Yeah.
room.
Yeah, a mudroom, yeah.
That's what it really is.
there's no way to get that door, I know you got the staircase there, but there's no way to get a door not off the decontamination room?
We were looking at that. I think it's a matter of, we just have to see what the elevation of that stair looks like, to see if
Yeah.
it's sneaking under there.
I mean, the only other spot that I was looking at was, which, you know, is another common area, is where you have the water coolers at the end of the chase.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, Greg, I missed.
The other location I was looking
We're
at
looking to
was,
see if we can move the door for the gym in this closet.
and I,
Zoom in.
Oh, I see, for the, under the stair.
I'm a little uncomfortable, you know, based upon that, and, you know, especially if it's another party doing cleaning, it's not their staff,
Yeah.
that could become an issue later on for
Well,
someone.
again, I guess and we will do whatever the committee directs us to do. I'm assuming it's kind of like a locker room shower. The gang comes in, hoses the equipment down, the room will be washed down. So it's not like it's a hazmat cleaning area. It's really more of the mud room, getting the dust, the ash, the big bulky grime off of the individuals or equipment prior to bringing it into the locker rooms.
Yeah.
And so I think whoever suggested the term mudroom, as I think it probably is more of a quote of a mudroom than a
What
decontamination.
I had in mind.
Because I know that when we call it decontamination, and you're absolutely right, Greg, about the fact that if this were a fire department or something, that has a completely different
It's not
connotation.
Silkwood where they're
Yeah.
scrubbing down for the radiation.
Yes, so, but if we, but to your point, Greg, we did look at trying to find the door off the janitor's closet, but then it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. We can try, it might be a little tight to get it underneath that,
Yeah, I think I just have to see
yes.
with
I
this.
see, you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks tight, but
What was that, Mike? You think,
I just have to see.
Oh, to see if you got
elevation of
the-
stair, whether or
the
not we
overhead
can get the
clearance.
door
Yeah,
under.
yeah, yeah.
Because right now, we tried to use the elevation, you see those 4 boxes at the end of the stair, those would be the lockers for the mechanics, as opposed to the platform lockers out in their space, and I think we're just getting those under there. So we will look at it, but,
I mean, would it make more sense to put the janitor's closet off of the bathroom?
that's what I was looking at. Well, you mean the
Just
little
moving the door?
bathroom? Yeah, I've seen that done before. It's always, you know.
well, let us try to get it under the stair first,
Okay,
all right?
so you have 3 individual
Right.
rooms.
So the other issue, which I don't think is going to be a major problem, if we have to, you'll see there's a column right across from the bathroom. The other option is to throw the lockers against that column wall, and there's still plenty of room. Mike, you want to show them what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean.
Right there. You see his cursor?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so if we we can put the lockers right next to the column there, and then we can squeeze the door in. We'll work something out.
But I think mudroom is a better descriptor. It's not like the fire department's decontamination area in the fire station.
Or just wash down or something like that.
Wash down, it's just, man, a day like today, you come down from the landfill, you get mud all over your boots, it's just a way to knock it down before you traipse it through the entire building.
So we'll call it the mud room, because
Whatever.
we're working on the.
Yeah, that means you gotta make sure who's using it cleans up, because then you got someone coming to clean and they're walking through the crap. Now they're tracking it through the building.
No, so Greg, so we're in agreement with you. So what we'll do is we'll try to get the janitor closet door under the stair, shuffle the lockers around, and then work it that way.
Yeah, it looks doable.
So are we good with calling it a mudroom?
It's called a washdown, we call it a
Okay.
washdown.
Washdown room.
Washdown room?
Definitely, like you said, the floor bay, or whatever you call it, a grid screen or something that, some for the heavies.
Right.
Gonna be a lot of dirt.
Why wouldn't that room be located close to the outside door? If they're coming in to clean themselves off from outside, why track through the whole building, or half the building, to get to that point?
Well, so you're probably bringing the piece of equipment in, which is just as dirty as the rest of the area. The other thing too is we've tried to keep the offices on the window space there so that they can monitor what activities are happening out in the yard, trucks coming in. In the case of the mechanics bay, for example, if I'm taking a delivery because tire delivery is coming or filter delivery. So we typically would put that there. Based on our discussions with Ace, when we walk through the facility, he doesn't have this washdown room currently. And we had just suggested it because we've started to put them in DPWs because they just seem to make sense. And then and so the fact that he doesn't have it, it sounds like it's going to be used periodically, like maybe once a week or something. It
It'll be
just
used.
seemed like a good location, but we can move it if somebody says.
That's a good observation.
Do you have any need for laundry, or you have a service come in?
Greg,
No, we have a service for
to
what,
that point, if you just took the decon, the custodial closet and the bathroom and swapped it with the well office, it'd be right inside the doors. You just move the whole block.
Yeah, you're saying.
Yeah, you just kind of lose your circulation path to the room, so.
You do. I mean, it's sort of a trade-off, but
what were you saying, Neil?
to take the decon, the janitor's closet, and the restroom and swap them where the well office is. So the two offices would still be on the outside wall with the window access, and the decon room would be closer to the entrance to the building.
You have the dimension of the stair width to work with, because once you kind of get to the stair, that gets reduced anyways. So that could work.
So Neil, I hear you, that is an option. So again, I'm going to ask the individuals that are working in the field. I'm covered with dust because I've been working in the landfill. I drive my truck into the bay because I'm not going to walk it in, I'm not going to park my truck outside. Is that a fair assessment?
Let me hold you right there. I'm satisfied with where it is. I have no problem with that. And to answer Tom's question, we unfortunately have a lot of, when the trucks come in from the landfill, there's a lot of tracking that goes on, and we're constantly sweeping up and cleaning that stuff up. So I think just walking in to the decon room past those two offices, I think is really gonna be a very minimal portion of tracked material around. I mean, the tires, every time you back a truck in there, there's just, we're constantly sweeping that stuff up. So I think it doesn't, to move everything around, I think where you have it, we can probably work the doors out a little bit better if we sandwich it in between where the well office is now. Then all you have is you've got 3 rooms and you've got two access points on left and right, as opposed to having that whole wall under the stairs where you can now have another door
Right.
in there, so. I don't know, that's
And
my,
the way that
that's
I
my thought.
envision they're gonna use this is, in the morning, they're gonna park their personal vehicle in the main parking lot and come down the long hallway corridor.
At the end,
Zoom back
yeah.
out, the employee entrance, punch in, if you could zoom back out, that long narrow corridor in the middle of the building between the office right there. So, where it says employee facility, so they come in there, time clock will be somewhere down the hallway, then they take a left into the locker room, then they're gonna exit out by the middle area where the garages and the offices, the crew chief and all that. And the truck, like the landfill truck that Pat Watt uses and a couple of the landfill vehicles are coming down on that side, parking by that parking spaces on that side of the building, the west side, east side of the building there, coming in by the offices and walking towards the decon, cleaning, and then coming to the break room. So they're parking down back there. They're not driving in there every day, but there will be some parking slots either by the fuel island or the side of the building,
Mhm.
that's where they'd be coming in.
Yeah, I think making that move is almost negligible. I really don't think it's a good observation, but I think the majority of the dirt that comes in there is gonna be on machines and wheels and things like that.
But what we will do, Ace, is we will explore getting the janitor's closet door under the stair or onto the corridor.
There's some spaces like right here, right by the offices or nearby,
No, they're across the,
across the way, okay.
yeah, next to either side of the.
Right by the fuel.
All right, were there any other questions? But that was the basic discussions that we had regarding the floor plan, the IT closet, shuffling the mechanics bay and everything around a little. Because, Mike, I think we tweaked it a little, if you can go down to the far mechanics bay. You would ask us to make that a little different configuration on the room so that you can do your welding bay shop area. So you'll notice that last bay is the full depth of the building. That way you can move equipment in and out accordingly. There was a discussion to keep the reels, so there's 2 sets of reels right there. And I did understand that correctly, right, from my notes I took? You do still want the hose reels?
Yes,
Yes, that's what
absolutely.
we meant. So.
Yeah, and I've discussed that with the mechanics, and they want the
And then, obviously, we have the bridge crane. As you can see, we've gotten it to cover as much of that area, and then it will go over the mezzanine as well. So you don't need to get a lift or something. If it's palletized, you can use the bridge crane to pick your materials to go up on the mezzanine.
Anybody else? Catherine, Ken, Marlene?
So Asa, I do just want to let you know, we're looking at a hoseless system for vehicle exhaust for the fire station.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something that, if you're interested, we can kind of share our research with you on that. Because our existing systems in the stations keep getting hit and damaged. So we are considering retrofitting the existing stations and in the new station, not even having a hose system.
So it's like like you're dealing with the whole volume of air in the station as opposed to just.
And it's filtered, so it's not, we wouldn't meet energy code by exhausting that much heated air.
Oh, yeah.
But there are systems now, Onset Fire, which is pretty new, has one where the air is being pulled through the filter and recirculated, but we're getting more information about kind of the cost of the filters and the maintenance involved.
Okay.
But if it's something that, I will say, the ones we have, the systems we have in the station, every time it gets hit, it's like 20 grand to fix it. So it adds up quickly.
Okay.
So Asa, one thing I will say on our hose, because I hear and I agree 100% with her. The difference is in the DPWs typically, is you'll see up at the top where there's those 2 reels that are up against the building. Depending on the length of your hose, the DPWs usually have different sizes. Some trucks exhaust at the bottom, some on top. So all that would be is up against the wall. There'll be a rope that they pull down on. They'll pull the hose over to whatever vehicle they need and flip on the switch and exhaust it that way. So I don't know if you're going to be hitting it that much, because if you're hitting those hose reels up against the wall, you're probably hitting the building and other things too. So it's something to look at, the hoseless system, but on the other hand, I think you may not need it. And then the other question is, when you're maintaining your vehicles, you probably pull them in, turn them off, do the work, pull them out. You're not idling them, you're not warming them, you're not doing anything else. And I understand there's still, but there is the whole area exhaust system with the NO and CO detectors and stuff that will exhaust the space if the fumes build up too much. But in this case, it's a pretty passive system that's out of the way, so that if, like I said, if they were hanging in the middle, I would agree 100%. But if you're hitting those hose reels, the bigger thing is you'll forget to take the hose reel off as you're backing the truck out. Not that I've ever seen that happen before, but, you know, that's probably the bigger challenge, so.
I guess to that, I mean, Marlene, forward along anything that you have on that, and I'd definitely take a look at it and see if it fits, but, yeah, we'll take a look at it.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Ken or Catherine?
No, I don't have anything.
No, I don't have anything either.
All right.
All right, so then the next item we discussed last week, or the last meeting, 2 weeks ago, was the aesthetics for the building. We were asked to, and you've seen the various versions of it, we were asked to get a kind of what we call the Cape look. One of the big discussions we had at the last meeting was to eliminate the 3 dormers on the vehicle storage shed. And there were multiple reasons for that. I mean, obviously it saves costs, makes sure the roof is easier to construct. And then I think there was, and it was kind of a split crowd. Some people liked it, some people didn't like them. So what we did was we've obviously focused in on the scheme without the dormers. And today we brought sample material so that everybody could see what finishes we could put on the exterior of the building. And we can walk through that, because I think that was the main charge. We gave you the 2 weeks to review the plans, I mean, the elevations, see if you had, still felt comfortable with the image, and then to get a sense of what kind of materials are on there. One of the things that we would be recommending on this building, because the reason that I feel that this building works a little better than like if we would go all metal building, and I'll explain that in a minute when I'm talking about the roof, is one of the characters that helps this Cape style is to have some eaves and overhangs on the building, because it kind of softens it. It doesn't just like you've carved a block of butter and tried to make it look like a building. So while the main building will be all metal panels that are very efficient, we're proposing that the roof be a more conventional system. And what I mean by that, it would be the purlins, they'll put down the roof deck, we'll put down the insulation, that then we would put either a metal roof on it or a shingled roof, depending on what the committee decides. The other reason we're doing this, and Marlene, I don't know if you can answer this question now. Are you FM Global insured?
No.
Okay. That's good, because one of the things that that FM Global does, they have slightly higher requirements for metal panel roof attachments. Okay. And it's a struggle getting it out, and so you have to double the purlins. And that's why we've kind of go on this particular project, because of the sloped roofs, that we'd say use the standard metal deck, put the insulation on, and we avoid all of those issues. Simpler construction and easier to get the aesthetic that you want.
Maybe it's just me, but I'm looking at that rendering right there, and I can see the car, the blue car in front of me, but it's all level grade. There's no balance, and if someone hits the gas instead of the brake by accident, goes and hits the building, I mean.
There's a curb there.
I just can't see it with my
Yeah,
percent.
yeah, there's a 6-inch granite curb right at the front of the building.
Yeah, okay.
You can kind of see it there, Peter, in the front, it just kind of wraps. Just
Okay,
drop your
I can
hand
see it
down.
now, as I'm up very close. I think I need stronger glasses. No, but I don't even know if that's enough at times, if you can jump the curb and go up, I don't know if it's.
Yeah, so this is a common problem on a lot of buildings. We've actually been putting like a wooden guardrail in the planting bed, just to give another, instead of doing bollards. Some
Okay.
people do bollards. And the wooden rail looks kind of landscapey, so it might be something to consider.
Marlene, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I missed some of the comments about the roof system. I'm sorry to ask, but could you just repeat that again?
Sure, no problem, Mark. So what I was saying is, if you're FM Global insured, they have stricter requirements than the building code regarding how the roof is attached to the building. So one of the problems, so typically on a DPW building, we would try to get you the metal panel walls, and it doesn't matter what kind of rain screen you put on it, and an insulated metal panel for the roofing system.
I like that one.
However, if you're FM Global, you have to put more purlins to get the proper number of attachments so that the roof meets their requirements. Depending on, because it's publicly bid, depending on which systems you use, whether you use, what is Metal Span or Kingspan or Falk or one of these systems, they all have their own little tweaks and everything on it. How you attach, even for just to meet code. So sometimes they ask for extra purlins, sometimes they don't. Our structural engineer likes to use the decking because now he can secure the whole building and use it more kind of as like a diaphragm rather than relying on the panels. So what we're proposing, because you have a slope roof, because, you know, the biggest thing that's driving is the eaves, and I highly recommend that you put the eaves on this building so it looks more of the aesthetic that you want. We're saying we're going to go with a traditionally constructed roof, the steel framing, the metal deck that gets spot welded or connected to that framing. Then we'd come in, insulate it, and then we would finish the surface with either shingles or a metal panel for it, and so that we can achieve that aesthetic. And it's just as cost effective, and it all works out the same way. So that would be our recommendation. Did that help, Marlene?
Yes, thank you. And I know we're a little early still, but how are you designing the roof system to be vented?
Well, again, some of these systems don't need to be vented, or in this case, you know, they actually come in, the panels are pre-vented, if I, you know, that didn't sound right. But they build in the systems where the venting is already in there, and we just have to coordinate that. So, but the fact that this is like an all-metal roof and everything, the venting is different requirements than if it were a wood roof.
This
Greg?
doesn't create an attic space?
There is no attic
So,
space in this.
Marlene, I think what you're referring to is an attic space being vented. In this case, there is no attic to be vented.
Okay, thank you. So all of the, if we choose a system that requires venting like asphalt rather than an unvented system like metal, all of the venting would happen on the outside of the deck.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
So like in the office space, we would have a hung ceiling and then right up to the bottom of the metal, that space
If you pulled up if you popped one of the ceiling tiles, you would see the metal deck up above.
goes straight up to the
With the
metal.
screws of the insulation and everything going through.
Okay.
What's on the inside in the garage looking up and along the sides? It's not that puffy.
No.
There's no puffy.
It's all panels, same thing on the ceiling?
So if we go with the system that we're talking, you know, the corrugated metal deck that you
Yep.
see, so if you looked up there, you'll see the corrugated metal deck. And we don't even recommend it be painted, because it comes galvy and everything, and as soon as you paint that deck, it starts peeling the next day.
Sure.
That's my opinion, so we typically won't do that, but we do paint the frame. Now, I do know that Tnemic, which is a paint brand, does have a system where you can spray the deck if you want it, you know, to get a paint finish on it. But the deck is usually like a silvery gray, so
Yeah,
it's
fine.
bright enough, light enough, and then if it gets dirty, nobody
Not
sees
pink
it.
insulation?
No pink, you won't see any insulation.
Are there ceiling fans?
There will be small ceiling fans, and I say small compared to the space, because I had this discussion today on one of our projects. It'd be your standard like 42-inch fan. There'll be a series of them. There might be like a half dozen in the vehicle storage area, which is primarily used for the winter conditions. To strata, yeah. Somebody asked, well, is it gonna cool the place? And the answer is no. You
The
know,
winter keep the heat
yes,
down.
exactly. Okay, so if we just kind of flip through and.
I'm sorry, can I ask another question?
Sure, please.
So, is there any, hard ceiling proposed where it's drywalled?
There may be limited selections, like over soffits over a counter. There may be some in the, like the shower area for the bathrooms. But most of it, we're proposing that it would be a suspended ceiling with very limited hard surface ceilings. Like maybe over the reception desk, there may be a section of hard ceiling, but yeah, it's probably going to represent like less than 1% of the areas.
Okay. And one thing, I guess, eventually, when the system is determined and designed, one of the things I'll want to spend, I want the committee to spend some time thinking about is, when it's time to put a new roof on, you know, how do we replace the roof? Is all the conduit, you know, nothing's up against the deck where we're screwing anything into it or anything like that.
So if you have to replace the roof at a future date, and when I say future date, 50 years from now, basically all you would do is you would go in, pull up the metal roof or the shingled roof, whichever system you decide. We're recommending metal, but again, we'll let the committee decide on. Then if for some reason the insulation was deteriorating, got water or something in it, you would rip the insulation up, you'd have the metal deck down, you'd screw in the new insulation and redo it just like you did. So you wouldn't be ripping off the metal decking or anything else like that if you go with the system that we're talking about, as opposed to an insulated metal panel, where if you pull the metal panel off, you then see into the building. So, does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Are we designing this building to be a lead level building, or are we just trying to get them?
Not lead, no.
Okay.
We had talked about net zero, but not with gas. We figured we'd focus on solar on the transfer station, and then we've got acres of solar on the landfill when it's all closed. So rather than focusing on this building where we have sort of space, you know, and putting solar on the roof, which didn't make sense, put it on the other areas. You know.
So, and Greg, I will let you speak to this as well, because I'm sure you might have done some of the lead buildings, or work. If we do this as a lead building, we're probably gonna tack $1 million on for the plaque.
Wow.
Because there's a whole monitoring process before, during design, then you do it during the construction, and I say for $1 million, you can give me 900,000 and I'll save you 100,000 and I'll make you a nice plaque for the building. Okay?
I was looking at that and I downloaded some stuff. I think there's probably things that we could do during construction that would get the points, but to go through the hoops you're talking about,
Yes.
to get that sounds like it's very expensive.
So one of the things we've been doing is, you know, just because of where we are today with most materials and, you know, and it might be something you guys can easily do, you kind of almost fill out the checklist based upon what you are doing,
Mhm.
and you actually kind of see of like how good your building is.
Sort of thing,
Or,
yeah.
you know, we call it, you know, some projects will say we strive to meet
Mhm.
this. So we're striving to meet it, but we're not.
Right.
You could
And-
document.
But just by what they're doing normally today, you get a lot of those
Yes.
points.
And we usually try on most of our buildings to like exceed the stretch code by about 15 to 20% for the energy consumption.
So this will has to meet the stretch because we are a green community.
Yes, you will, if we,
But everybody's at, right?
yeah, right now, like I said, most of our buildings that we've been doing are exceeding the stretch code by about 10 to 15%.
Just for the radiant heat alone.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's really about getting the building envelope tight, you know. As far as some of the lead stuff, and I remember we did one of the lead buildings, it was for a Mass DOT project, and we got lead points for the shower and the bike racks. The only problem was on a highway, a state highway where you couldn't ride your bike. So it didn't quite make sense why we were getting points, but that's what we had to do to chase points. And so,
Recycling the materials and, you know, using, you know, right there.
Mhm.
I presume the lighting plan is a later stage where you have all the types of lighting and task lighting.
we'll be doing all LED lights for the most part, and yes, there'll be task lighting where necessary, and we will work. So there's typically, like in an office, there'll be 2 banks of lights, because if you have an exterior window, code requires us that they can operate with just half the lights on if you have a window. And so there's all sorts of lighting functions that are already built into it. They will have motion sensors. Lighting is fairly efficient today, and
And the garage lights are not the big lamps, but.
no, those are, no, you get LEDs on that.
That's a good example of, you know, just in the lighting, with the lighting controls, there's a bunch of points just in that.
Yeah.
We probably could do a report that we could call our own internal sustainability
Yeah.
report of how we met a lot of it, maybe not.
Well, again, I know there's an executive order which doesn't apply to you at the state level that the governor put out, and that's where, when we did the Mass DOT District 3 building, we said you could spend the $1.5 million to chase down your plaque, or we could take that money and turn it into a net zero building, which was much more, a better use, in my opinion, of the money. So if there are other things that you want to consider, and if you're thinking LEED, I'd say spend the money on other functions that you need to achieve the sustainability and the energy efficiency on the building than just going for the plaque. So that's my personal opinion, and so I don't want anybody to think that but I'm pretty practical about making the money do something useful.
Yeah, I don't think it was the lead was the intent here, so.
Well, it's an efficient building, that's more,
And we meet the stretch code is,
We'll document, I think, again, we control the waste on site, literally, and we, we'll say this is gone to recycling, and we'll, I'm downloading the little booklet or whatever it is, and you can see what the points are.
okay.
And make a little report.
All right, so Mike is just gonna walk us through so you see the office, there's, the standard windows, and they're gonna be fixed windows due to the dust, and we're still moving in that direction, correct, Asa? They're gonna be all fixed windows on the building.
correct.
Okay.
Is everybody in agreement with that? I mean, it was our intent to keep all those windows shut. If people start opening windows and leaving windows open, we have issues, so.
Yep, the dust and
Yeah.
all that, so definitely.
Before you go to the garage side, can you go to the break room side, the south side?
Well, that's like the fifth slide down,
Oh, I thought you
Phil.
were going to the
Okay.
garage. Okay.
No, we're on the south side now.
Go in your order.
No, that's fine, let's go, Phil.
My
Can you
only
zoom in a
concern was
little, Mike?
the,
I don't know if that's possible.
with all the windows and then the dormers, that it would be nice and bright, but if we wanted to use that room for training and other purposes, to keep it cool, but also to, block things out so that we could, have a video in there. I don't know what, I presume it's open to the ceiling with the dormers.
Yes. You'll have blackout shades in that room,
Okay, that's fine.
okay? So, and then they can be a dual shade too, because I know we've done that before, where if you're worried about glare, which we're not because you have the porch and everything, but we could actually put two shades in the same mechanism. One's for a blackout purpose, one is for glare. I don't think you're going to have a glare problem. Clearly, the shades up at the top dormer there are going to be motorized. The rest of the shades throughout the building, I would say just make them manual.
We were
with the
just kind of
clutch.
joking, we just did ladder safety, we weren't gonna be like, I'd climb up on Ace's shoulders on the ladder, and we're like. So, okay, perfect, because I would.
Hey, that's better than Asa climbing on your shoulders.
Yes.
Right?
But I anticipate using that room for training and, with the monitor and,
Mhm, right.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, we can make them all motorized shades if you want, but I would assume it's just less
Specs.
maintenance. I mean, it's not even so
I
much.
don't- Yeah, I think,
No, simple. So, but those ones up top would be like exception.
Okay, Mike, if we can go back to our sequence. So that is the rear of the building. As you can see, we are trying to get clear story up at the top for the vehicle repair garage, as well as that center portion that would be the mezzanine. And so provide light there. We would put lights in the doors to get there. At this point, if you wanted a little more light, we could probably cut some skylights into the vehicle storage, though that didn't seem to be, necessarily a big concern at the time. And Mike, I think we have some at the end window down there as well.
Yeah.
So I believe that you'll get adequate lighting in your space. And as you can see, we also have some windows on the back side for the garage. So you should have plenty of light in there. And then next slide, Mike, I think. And that's just kind of the final elevation. I think that's the last slide, right, Mike?
Yeah, we just.
Yeah.
Could you go back to the, where the crew chief's office entrance is?
Yep. Mike, I think that's like the first slide.
One more.
Oh,
One more back, it was close for a few. Maybe.
No.
But you see where the little enclave there is?
Yes.
The alcove or whatever.
Yes.
I'm just thinking practicality, we have a crew chief's mechanic's truck, pickup truck, we have Ace's truck, and we have the landfill crew's truck. So I'm wondering, when they come down from the hill to break, they're gonna use the lower side, that if that had a little guardrail and some spots there, they could park there, come in. Is that where we tend to have the door entrance, so they would walk in to the decon?
Yeah, unfortunately, they just didn't show up on this rendering.
Okay,
Yeah, so the 2 doors are going in on the sides there.
right. So rather than park over by the fuel and walk across, is there space to have 2 or 3 spots there for the regular vehicles?
So what I would suggest in this case is that we can put bollards there.
Yeah, bollards or
Okay,
whatever.
so, and then you guys park wherever you want. Because even if I stripe the parking lot, I've known people that can't park between
It's,
the lanes.
it's what's gonna happen is the guys are gonna come down, they're gonna park in front of the garage doors, they're gonna go to coffee break, they're gonna go to lunch, and then they're gonna come back out and everybody's gonna disperse. So I don't see that being an issue there. I don't think we need to designate any parking there.
But that's what they're gonna definitely do. They're not gonna park over the fuel side mark.
Yeah, no, oh, for sure, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I like that it's a little bit recessed in underneath, like,
Yeah.
keeps the
Yeah, you're
snow.
not walking right out into traffic like
Yeah.
we are right now.
That's-
Yeah.
It looks nice.
So, but that's what I was saying, if you would like me to, is kind of in this pad area, I can put bollards maybe like 4 to 5 feet off the building, so people can still walk by, so somebody isn't parking too close, and again, you guys are gonna figure it out. The nice thing is you don't have heavy volume of traffic. There's the 10 or 12 of you guys working, so you know what to do and where to park, but I can do that, or we can just leave it so you can plow it easier.
I don't think bollards are necessary there, to be honest with you. I mean, you're protected by the fact that you're, you know, I
Oh, yeah, no,
think-
I'm not just
yeah.
saying that if somebody pulls up too close.
Yeah, no, I don't, if somebody parks in that little alcove, I think we're gonna have to have a conversation with them.
Well, there's a little, there's the little,
Like today, they might try to get.
Yeah, right, that's a good point, yeah, you pull the door right up to the, yeah, right, that's a good point.
there's a little, what do you call it, at the end of the parking lot, there's the little bumps screwed into the asphalt, the little section.
Again, it's a plow issue at,
Oh.
you know.
Yeah.
But on the ASID, so if you do consider the bollards in front of that door, like I said, you're gonna be using a snow blower there anyway, so it's not like a really big deal,
Mm.
so.
Heat the apron.
Skid steer.
We will put it on the plans, you take a look at it, once we
Okay.
get into the gory details, we can decide if you wanna keep it or not, but at least it'll be a placeholder for that.
Well, for the short money, you give a little more protection.
Yeah, and just
I know
There's
aesthetically, it,
stuff to work around, and, I don't know, just sort of,
And there's gonna be an exterior lighting plan that'll be on like 24/7, will it come looking down?
So
Or-
we will put wall packs on, we try to do dark sky lighting so
Yep.
that you light the floors and stuff.
And we'll-
I'm assuming that this building, other than emergency lighting or night lighting at the entrance, so code requires us to have night lighting at all the entrances, okay? I'm assuming that this building will go dark at night. There's no reason to light it up, is there?
just like you're saying, just the, you know,
The entrances, and
The
there
entrances,
might be
yeah,
some,
no, there's
you know,
no-
pole lights out in the parking.
that's all we have on our other buildings, is same, that kind of
I
thing.
know that there is, the planning board has, like you said, night horizontal projection restrictions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the dark sky compliant, which they'll have to be.
Yeah.
So that's all stuff we're gonna see in design development.
Yes,
Thank you.
so.
Could we go back to the, well, does anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns?
So we're gonna continue with the exterior materials?
We are.
And then kinda decide on everything?
I just had one question on the southern, if you can go to the southern elevation view, that's that one right there. Can you zoom in? I'm just kind of curious what that looked like. I know you added some windows in there, and I kind of wanted to see what
This area? or-
yeah, that's it right there. I just wanted to see that.
That's for the clam bakes, looks nice. You know, and it's gonna say Phil's Place on, right under that dormer, and he's gonna be having clam bakes there on Saturdays.
I mean,
There
no,
is a patio there, a area that's
Yes.
wide enough to have a couple of picnic tables, right?
Yeah, and Mike, if you go back to the site plan, I think what you'll see is, obviously, there's the area, under the porch, but right in front of it, that we extended
Yeah.
the patio area out like 10 or 12 feet. I think you can see it on the site plan.
Actually, it's here. So it's this line.
Yeah, okay, so, you see there's a little patio right there.
That's fine.
what is it, 1
Oh,
inch equals
it's,
10 feet or something, or?
Well, the canopy, I think, is like,
The canopy is.
6 feet or 5 feet, Mike?
I wanna say it's 6.
That's like 6 feet, and then we're coming out like another 10 to 12 feet on the area.
For the golf.
We can also put the putting green in that area if you'd like to.
Awesome. It looks beautiful.
All right, so are there any comments, Mike, if you could pull up that west elevation, since that's kind of the, so what I'm gonna do is walk us through some materials now. And everybody can do their thing.
Glass, be
Yeah, I
careful.
know. That's what I'm worried about. So, okay, we are proposing fiberglass windows for the building. Couple reasons for that. And Gray, I don't know if you found a solution yet, but we are finding it very tough to find windows that meet the energy code. Because you either roll with a curtain wall system or you roll with fiberglass windows. Because most of the metal windows these days do not meet the energy code. I know EFCO is supposed to be coming out with them. Haven't seen that yet. Are you having that problem?
So it depends on what type of building type we're
Right.
doing. We've been, smaller buildings, we've been working with the HERS raters and
Okay.
getting it so that we don't need to deal with that.
Mhm.
On bigger buildings, we're just gonna go into the curtain wall.
Right, okay. So we either go curtain wall or we go with a fiberglass window.
What does the current wall mean?
Curtain wall is, it's glass and a metal frame, but the way they assemble it, you can get higher performances on it than just the standard extruded windows. We do know that these windows, these fiberglass windows, meet the energy code because they've got the welded corners, they're filled with a foam inside, and they meet all the requirements. The other nice thing about it is they don't rot, you can get them surfaces, you can paint them any color you want. As you can see on the back side, we had a custom color you want. They will finish that, on one side, light on the inside. And in this case, you won't have to worry about screens or hardware because you're going to have non-operable. But we've used them in a lot of DPWs and stuff, and they seem to work just fine. The window sizes that we're looking at are well within the tolerances of this. If we had to bigger windows and stuff, we would probably have to go to a curtain wall. Because I think the max on this is like 4x8, 4x10. We're well within those parameters on this building. Because Mike, what's that top window? Like 4x6?
Yeah, these are all 3 feet wide.
3 feet, so 3x6. So this is what we're proposing. They're very cost effective. They're less expensive than metal windows, or at least the same price. They're much less expensive than curtain wall.
Is there a gas between the panes?
Yes, you can get double pane, triple pane, whatever panes you want. And then, I don't know, Greg, have you been keeping up with Guardian Glass?
No.
Guardian Glass now has a single pane that they can get like an R16 out of, they're saying. That's new technology, I don't think we're.
But that
not
would be
recommending.
proprietary then, wouldn't it
It would be
be?
proprietary, but it would be phenomenal if they can start doing that, because that means that you can get windows to meet the wall ratings, basically. We are not recommending that. We are not the ones to be first in the technology. We'll let that develop a little further. We would propose that you go with a double or triple pane glazing on this. The fact that they're fixed windows and not operable will mean we get higher efficiency as well. So this is what we're proposing. It gives you the appearance of a metal window, but it's less expensive and it meets all the energy codes.
What about negotiating an extended warranty on these windows, on the windows itself? Because we did Bourne Intermediate, we did a commissioning test, and some of the windows failed because of the caulking around it wasn't sufficient, and we were able to negotiate a multi-year extension to the window warranty through the commission, and just guess in case there were any air or leaks or anything in the windows after a while.
Right, well, the caulking around the windows is a little bit, that's separate.
That would be a little tricky to do
Yeah.
at the specification stage, 'cause
Yeah.
again, we have to,
And I will-
they have to generate criteria. They can list manufacturers that meet the criteria, but if they can submit on another product that meets the criteria, so that would be tricky to do.
And we're working through that, CMS right now on another project where all of the curtain wall systems were installed, they were all, caulked around them, they did the first window test, and the window test failed because they were getting some leaks, the contractors going back, doing remediation. So that testing will occur
Okay.
during construction, so
Yeah.
that
All right.
they don't move into the building and find out they gotta use that.
Understood.
Marlene, you have a question?
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I missed this conversation, but did you guys have decided that you are not going to have operable windows?
No operable windows
Why?
because of the dust.
What are you gonna do when your air conditioning breaks?
Fix the air conditioning. That's
Fans.
a good question. Fans. I just don't, I don't think that the dust, I mean, we don't open our windows now. The dust is just, it would be a problem in our offices.
We never opened.
Is this gonna be a VRF system, you think, in the
Yes.
offices?
No, they have odors, dust and
So,
odors.
there's, yeah, that changes sort of the issue of the, you know, you get ventilation with that type of system
Okay.
if it goes down still.
All right. Did you hear that, Marlene?
It's a VRF?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we're proposing for the masonry is what is manufactured by Aeroscraft. It's a simulated stone. It's not a clay brick, it's a simulated stone. We've had a lot of success with it. There's 1,000 different samples and everything else that you can get with it. The rendering that you're seeing is this particular stone. That is, you can see it comes in different sizes, and it creates a very nice, rich space on the building. And as you can see, it's kind of a rusticated, so if it chips or something, you don't see it.
Mhm.
Again, if you say, nope, we don't like the gray, we want to go with the red brick, we will be happy to get red brick samples or whatever else you want. But this is what we're proposing for this, the way the rendering is done right now.
Dark gray, is that?
This is the gray, yes.
Yeah.
On the rendering, it's.
Yes.
The renderings.
Yes. And it's always different when you see in the sunlight and the mortars and everything else.
That's hefty.
And that's gonna be 4 inches thick. It's like a standard brick, it looks like, they lay it out as a brick. Now, one of the things that we'll do, and I'm gonna put this little.
No? You guys wanna see this?
That would be-
So,
Well, we had the DPW when they backed up the trash truck into the wall with a stone wall like that.
So the building will be a steel frame, it will have girts, and then it will have panels like this. These will be called liner panels, okay? Right now, you see this is a finished panel, but basically what a liner panel is this exact same panel, it just doesn't have a finish on it. Because they're gonna put a rain screen over it. And a rain screen over it would be the type of siding that you would do. So in this case, as you can see, there's a joint, kind of a tongue and groove, and come together. One of the things that we do is we specify that it's a factory-applied sealant, and we don't rely on the craftsmen out in the field to do it. So what they'll do is they'll come in and they will put the bead of sealant in here and in here, and then when they go out in the field, they'll just pull the strip off, so that when they set the panels, they engage like that and they seal better and tighter. The reason we do that is because if it's a cold day, a windy day, a hot day, just having a bad day, doesn't really matter. Sometimes you see the guy put a bead of caulk in there and seal it and call it a day. Sometimes he gets the full thing, sometimes he gets it. So by putting it as a factory install, it's ready, it's consistent, and it works. We have found that to be the most successful way of getting that done. And again, you can either have a double groove, or in some cases, they have single grooves, depending on the system that you want.
How long has that been around for?
We've been using this one for the last 20 years, 25 years, so.
This is the white area?
No, this is just the substrate. Think of this as the plywood on the building. Like if you were building a house.
Underneath that.
Under the, yes, so there'd be a steel frame. This literally gets clipped on, there's clips and stuff that they put in, and they will screw this to the building.
And then that's what you see on the inside of the garage?
You will see a white liner on the inside of the garage, yes.
Yeah, so there'll be an airspace and.
Yeah, so there'll be a 2-inch airspace, and then at the base of the building will be the 4-inch masonry. Okay, so think of this, you know, those of you who are familiar with residential construction. This is the 2x4 stud, gypsum, and plywood all in one piece. Because this is what you'll see on the inside, a white liner panel. The exits will be like this. You'll see some fasteners and stuff. And then we clad it with the masonry at the base, which would be a rain screen.
What, 12 feet up, was it?
Well, no, that one's like, I think, 8 feet. The other in front of the window is like 4 feet. It varies.
Yeah.
So then the question is, what do you want to put on above the masonry there? So if you decide to go all metal, this is a sample of a kind of a metal clapboard look. I use that loosely, but the size of this building and stuff. So obviously this could look like this, and you could get the metal siding to look like a clapboard. If you're looking for a little more traditional clapboard look, I'm sure you're all familiar with Artie panel. I'll pass some samples now. And I know Greg, you've really got all this stuff, because you've seen it on your
That's right. I've seen it.
Okay.
The other option is, that this is a fiber cement
You want to see
board.
it? No.
This is a fiber cement board. It can come, it can be pre-painted, you can paint it on the field, you can do what you want. Again, they come in slightly different styles. You can get a thicker to thinner, and that, so what would happen on that is there would be a strapping system that goes on, and this would sit off the building like that.
Is it durable, so you can pressure wash if you want to get all the dust off the building if you
You
want?
can, it's concrete.
Okay.
That's essentially what this is, it's concrete. So that is one option. The other option is what they call truss bed, and if you wanted to go for more of a woody grain system. So again, this is why we call them rain screens, because they basically sit here. The weather tightness of the building is back here.
Yeah.
These are just for aesthetics.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's any, you want to see that.
Do those run, seal the outside to the very tip underneath the eaves, or are there spaces that where rain would be getting down between?
No, and it's okay if the rain gets in there, because there's always in all the construction, whether it's amazing, there's always an airspace in the building, so that if water gets in, it drops down to the bottom and leaches out. So you want the airspace, and it has weep holes and everything on the masonry.
Do we have ice dams or heat strips on certain areas so that you don't get damming and you don't need that?
There'll be snow guards.
Snow guards?
Snow guards, yeah.
Okay.
So typically, if you're having ice dams and problem stuff, it means your attic isn't properly ventilated. Not because the building needs it, it's because it was constructed wrong. Would you agree with that, Craig?
Right, which when we don't have attics.
Yeah, so you don't have that, so this won't be a problem. So-
There are some, you say, snow dams or just prevents it from.
Well, they're ice guards, so what they are is so that when the snow builds up and it starts sliding down, it doesn't slide off and take people out. So, okay, and that can either be a rail system or it can be the individual. Typically on a building like this, depending on the roof system that you use, you would probably put a rail system. I think you've seen them where they're like maybe 6 inches high, and they step up the roof like every 15 to 20 feet. And again, we'll calculate all the requirements for that. So that would mean one option, and then this has the coding on it, so you can get whatever color you want. So we would build the roof, put the insulation down, do what we need to do, and then they would come in and they would put this on.
That's the roof.
Well, this is an option. And this would be the metal roof.
Metal roof.
Right. Then what would happen afterwards is the bird deterrent would get clipped off the seams.
Yeah, I mean, talk to Flynn, they'll give you what they need.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, they will clip onto the flint, because they're not gonna drill through the panels. Because if you start drilling through the panels, you're voiding some of the warranties, and you're making all sorts of issues. Don't put holes in the roof.
Is that gonna get dinged and dented from the seagulls dropping shells?
Potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know how aggressive your seagulls are. If they're
bomb.
aggressive, they could potentially dent it.
If there's a good deterrent system in this system that Dan and I, I've had experience with it, they're not gonna do that because they couldn't get down to get the meat on the shelves because they would have to go through the wires. So they would stay away. That's the hope.
Yeah.
And I don't need to, pass these around, but there's standard colors you can get custom colors. In your case, if you're going with kind of a white and gray scheme.
That's for the roofing, Greg?
Yes, we can get these colors for the various roofing as
No,
well as for the panels.
the color samples are for the roofing panels.
They all
Yeah.
have different samples and
Okay.
stuff like that. So, that's the option, or again, you can go with a traditional shingle roof. If you want, or as Neil dealt with one architect that said it was cheaper to just do a slate roof. I'm always for slate roofs, they are beautiful, they're not cheap. Just- So that's something the committee can decide on, how they would like it. I think the masonry is the masonry. I think what color you pick and everything is fine. I highly recommend you put the masonry on the lower portion of the building. I think the committee's already agreed to that.
What does the long-term performance of that look like? I know there was some discussion of it not being
The masonry?
the performance, oh, not the masonry, I'm sorry, you said masonry, I immediately was thinking like clapboard, like the hardy board clapboard.
Well, again, if it's installed correctly and it's ventilated, which we would do, because it'd be, okay, it should last forever, because it's concrete. The thing that happens on hardy planks that you'll see some installations on is because it's a concrete material, it will always hold water.
Right.
Okay, and what people do is they nail it right up against the wood, and then all of a sudden, the water is just always against the wood. Where if you put the airspace behind it, it keeps the paint from peeling off, and it keeps it always dried out
Right.
on the back side as well as the front side.
Mhm.
So, but just assume that this will always hold some type of amount of moisture,
Right.
you know, if you go with that. The Trespa, because it's more of a polymer, doesn't hold as much, you know.
Can I see that?
Yes, and there's different colors that you can get. It's plastic, basically. Have you used Trespa?
Not that specific product,
Okay.
but similar ones.
And you've had success with it?
Yeah, I actually like it better than the Hardy.
Yes.
You know, the biggest issue with the Hardy, that people don't like the final appearance of it because of the gaps you need
Yes.
to create.
Yes.
And, you know, if you look at any building that's big, on a smaller residential, it's not as noticeable, but it pops on big buildings, and everybody thinks it got installed improperly.
There's another product out there that's called Equitone. It's like a hardy panel, but the difference between that and hardy panel is, so hardy panel is typically, it's a fiber cement board, but they only put the color coating on top. Equitone has the color all the way through. And it comes in panels and sheets, and it's a beautiful product too. Which,
That way if it gets scratched or something, you.
well, we've actually scratched and stuff because the color is throughout the entire core. It's never a problem. And then they have different, I didn't bring my Equitones. But it's just basically a smooth hardy, or you can get, like I said, ribs or something in it. It's not a clapboard look, it's more of a paneled look.
Right.
But there can be some beautiful finishes on that. If you want the clapboard look, I'm going to say you'll probably have to go with a version of whether it be the Equitone or the hardy panel or the Trespa type or the other brands that you have. You could do that, or you go with the metal.
And this is far less susceptible to, it seemed to me this would be less susceptible to moisture,
Yes.
right?
Yes. But that is probably one of the more expensive products.
It is, okay.
Yes.
Greg, I'm assuming that none of the systems that you've presented today are proprietary?
That is
There are
correct.
multiple providers and vendors and
Yes.
whatnot?
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
specified what models.
Thank you.
What would, just from a cost standpoint, do you have would you guys have a preference on the cost standpoint?
Well, this, you know, you'll hear run $7 to $10 a square foot. This runs about $20 to $25 a square foot.
That's a Trespa there?
It's the trust,
Yeah.
right.
What do you think the metal is?
The metal, you're buying the metal anyway. So here's the question that you hear. If you were telling me to make it the most efficient building, okay, I would put the liner panel behind the masonry, and then I would get a finish panel. It doesn't have this rip. They can be, you know, and stack it on top like that. And we literally do that. That's what we've done at Hudson. So the masonry would come up to this point. We put the sill and everything on, and then we would just put a standard metal panel up above it. And because of the way they build the buildings, the cheapest way to do is just to put the vertical panels up. However, you can put additional framing and girts and everything so that you can turn it horizontal. But this would be the cheapest way to do it.
You split it where you have the office with the nicer material and then the garage with the simpler one?
You're just, again.
Is that too
it-
complicated?
No, I mean, anything's possible, and people, you know, it's just, you know,
Ruins the aesthetic?
well, not even so much it ruins the aesthetic, it's just a mixing and matching, you're getting a lot of trades in that you don't necessarily need, in
Oh,
my opinion.
okay.
I think it's the simpler you can keep the trades, because I'm not bringing in carpenters to do this. The metal panel guys do all this stuff.
Peter or Marlene, I wondered, do you have any knowledge of these systems on any town buildings that you like or don't like?
The only knowledge I've had over the last couple of buildings were done, and
I'm sorry, did someone ask me a question?
I was saying, Peter or Marlene, if you have any knowledge of any of these types of wall systems being used on town buildings that we like or don't like?
not me personally.
I'm sorry, Peter, what did you say?
I have no experience of dealing with these type of,
Yeah, I think,
facial frontage.
I think this building and the police station have the hardy.
Do you know what that building system was on the school?
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with how the police station hardy board turned out. Most of our other buildings, frankly, are masonry.
Yeah.
I don't know what the DPW building is. Is that a metal
That's just all
panel?
metal panel.
Yeah, metal
Yeah.
panel and, what do you call it, what we have here proposed for the brick or the facial,
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah. So, again, this is where if you do a road trip up to Whitman,
So, yeah.
okay, you will see Whitman has the masonry base, it happens to be a red brick, and then it has a panel like this that's smooth, no, you know, this comes with like an orange peel, smooth, slight rip, big rip, whatever. And it has and I would say it's a handsome building, it looks nice, and at this scale and where you're at, I don't think it's really gonna make a difference, to be honest with you, whether that has clapboards on it or just a white surface. Because from that rendering, which we can see, I'm about that far away from the building, can't really tell if you have clapboards or a smooth white building.
I would agree to that. I actually think the way the building's designed now, having the smooth panel, wouldn't be a bad option at all. And again, after looking at the DPW building, I think anybody just drive up there and look at it. It's very similar in the scale. They've got that front area that's kind of similar to this, and then they got the big building in the back. I think with the masonry and with the way the windows are broken up, I don't think we need the horizontal look.
And what I would propose on the smooth panels, and these would be considered smooth panels and all of them, this would be like an orange peel finish on it.
That's what they have.
Yeah, so I wouldn't go with a smooth. You can get the
Yeah.
glossy smooth, but I would put like an orange peel finish on it, just because it's
Matte?
yeah, it's kind of a matte, you can see it.
It's not, you know, shiny and reflective.
No, but you feel the texture, that's what I'm talking about. The texture seems to help a little,
Much different colors, so.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's painted on?
Yeah, this is a factory applied
Okay.
finish. So basically what would happen is, let's say you decided to go with a red building, okay? The panels would come red, ready to go, they stick them up on the building, you've got your white panel on the inside and you're done. So it's literally a one-step process. Frame goes up, girts go up, then you have the panel crews go and start putting them up. Then the masons come by, they put their masonry at the base, you tie off the roof and you're done.
It's a little shelf on the mason, it's like,
It would be in the seal on that, where if you were to go with like a hardy or a trespa, what we can do is, when we put the furring out, we would put the girt out far enough so that there is not a shelf, the masonry shelf. We would make it flush with the masonry in that case. But
There's another cap on top.
yes, there's a flashing. So again, I think if you get to
Drains,
Whitman,
it's not
you
flat.
will see all of this.
So that's DPW.
So, yeah, so that's just a straight metal panel.
Yeah.
And I
Pretty
can't-
sure it has the dimples to it, just
Yeah.
like that.
And that looks like a larger panel. We would probably put, we feel that the panel that we used at both, because it's the same panel at Whitman and Hudson, right?
different manufacturer, I was saying.
But anyway, so if you get a panel like this, you see it's got a little bit of a rib in it, and you get the orange peel on it and stuff, and it looks a little nicer, because I saw in the DPW, and I couldn't tell if it's a photo or whether, is there might be a little oil?
It was
there?
raining.
What's that?
It was raining that day.
Oh, okay. But anyway, by getting a little bit of a rib in it just helps to, because anything that you're trying to get smooth is never gonna look smooth. And so we always try to say, kind of try to deceive the eye by putting a little rib in there, putting a little matte finish on it, and then it kills a lot of the sins.
But do you have that raised section, right, just to your, yeah,
No, this is a roof section.
okay, all right,
I just
all right.
pick it up because it's
Yeah.
easier to.
So you wouldn't have, that wouldn't, okay.
No, so we could get like this
Yeah.
in whatever color you want, white, beige, green, purple, you know, and do it, so. But so basically, it's a one and done system.
So then on the inside in the garage, it's the,
That's what you see.
that's what you see in the
And
inside of
you
the
see
garage.
whatever steel that's.
Is we have the knee wall, which is really a shoulder wall,
Right.
because it's like 6 feet, and then it goes up the ceiling with that.
Yes.
And then in the office, it's finished with,
Yeah, then you would have gypsum
Drip.
and everything, and it'd look like this room in here.
got it.
Just a quick question and just a thought on the pre-sealing. Is this site dusty enough that could impact that? That, you know, they strip it and there's dust, I mean,
Well, it'd be easier than them trying to use a caulk gun and do it. Because they literally will, these things will fly.
because they're basically gonna peel it,
Peel it
then
and
lift it
stuff
up
it.
with the crane, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of time between all, I'm just,
It's less than when they have to actually feel apply the sealant, because they could have, say.
yeah, I see what you're saying, because, you know, they're doing it, yeah, that makes
And I've
sense.
seen where, you know, they're putting the Vita sealant, it's a windy day, and the next thing you know, the butyl sealant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes
Or they're
sense.
running out of the butyl,
Yeah.
and then they're kind of squeezing it out at the last.
Could I see those panels there?
It's never windy where we are.
So you're saying there's a bead, two beads down?
Two beads
Yep.
there with a peel and strip. So when it comes out of the field, it would be factory sealed, then I peel the strip off, insert this panel. And then the next panel has the same. I
Gotcha.
peel the strips off and it's a progressive system.
And you're asking is during that time in which you seal it and then get it up on
Yeah, but to their point, if you're doing it by a gun, it's just, you know, you got the same issue.
You said it's kind of tried and true anyway, right? It's been around a
Yes.
while.
And if, like I said, if you go to Hudson, you go to Bourne, you see any of our project, you will see that we've used it dozens of times. It gets us very good energy efficiency.
Mhm.
That's why we're achieving some of the 10 to 15% higher than the stretch code. One of the things we learned over time was when you go out there, even though you'll have your concrete knee wall, shoulder walls, the panel will run all the way down even in front of the concrete. The reason being is because then it keeps the thermal envelope consistent. And then once that's done, you put the masonry out there and it looks beautiful. And then, so that's kind of the exterior, and I know that that was the purpose. I think there were some comments last meeting saying, what about the epoxy floors?
Hmm.
This is what we would recommend for the epoxy floor. Obviously, it's on a wood backing. We used the chip. This is the oyster shell. We still find this the most attractive of all the epoxy floors, but we have put other colors in at your preference. But we call this the grage or the beige kind of look, where it's pretty neutral and you can add any color and you can see it still works. So we've added red, blues, greens.
There's no seams, that's what you mean, but it's not looking
Yes.
like this floor.
Nope, it's
Just
gonna be
complete-
one solid thing. We roll it up the current on the
Yes.
sides of the walls. Because you have masonry walls down the corner, it works beautifully. Basically, all you do is need a buffer of mop, and actually all you need to do to keep it clean.
I'm a big fan of the epoxy floors. We've done a few applications. Really like them.
So we put in hundreds of thousands of square feet, and this is, we got this all from Eversource. Eversource uses in all their complexes.
I think that's great.
You know. And then in some of the facilities, we're even putting this in the office. That's a decision you guys can make, whether you want this in the office or whether you want carpet in the office or a combination of both. But I know that some of the DPWs are sitting there saying, we don't even want carpet because inevitably, you know, Bob, Mary, Sally, they walk in with their dirty boots, and they'll track it all over the carpet. It's all carpet tile, so it's not a big deal, but we just find that we just run this throughout.
We did our loading dock area, it's high traffic. It's holding up nicely.
Certainly all the way down that corridor, in the vestibule, in the break room.
Yeah, Mike, if you pull up the, so what we're saying is everything outside the office area, okay, well, let me rephrase. The vehicle repair and the vehicle storage garage just get sealed concrete.
Concrete, right?
Yes, no, nothing else in that. Then as, Mike, you can just zoom out all the way, yeah, okay. So, this corridor, the break room, storage area, the men's and women's room, would all get the epoxy.
Yep.
The electric room, we would just do sealed concrete, okay? The IT room, everybody wants us to put the epoxy in the IT room, so, but that's such a small room. But, so this whole area would be epoxy, that would be epoxy, and we would put the epoxy through there. Anything in the vehicle repair would just be sealed concrete, anything in the vehicle.
Sealed
storage-
concrete meaning a resistance to oil and.
It means we will put a sealer on it and it will do the best it can do. Okay, the reason I say that is because it should last, but if you drag a plow or tools and you
Right.
scrape the finish off, you scrape the finish off. And that could happen to anything. Then the question comes up is in this office area. Do you put carpet tile down, which is relatively inexpensive, you know, and you just replace it or clean it, whatever you need to do, or do you run the epoxy through there? And I will let you all make that decision on the aesthetic that you want with that.
The only question I have on that is just noise. I mean, because it is a little,
Do you find this room noisy?
Some throw rugs down in your office.
Yeah, I mean, there's other flooring products like LVT,
Yeah.
they have the cork backing.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend carpet. I'd recommend the hard surface that you can easily clean. But
Couple
there's,
throw rugs down on
I
them or something.
think that should be another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
I am a little surprised on just the sealed concrete.
Or would you put in an epoxy?
So we've done truck centers before, you know, where they're changing oils and
Right.
gases, and we've always done, forget the brand, but it's like it's another epoxy.
Okay,
But, you know, it's like a cross between a seal and epoxy.
Mhm.
It's not that.
right, no, that's the chip,
But,
yeah, I
you
know
know,
what you're saying.
it prevents the concrete from staining, gives a surface that's easily cleanable.
Mhm.
is it throughout the entire mix or just a top layer?
That's a top layer off.
It's like a
you know,
paint.
once
But it's
the
a more
concrete
durable
is
than-
cured, yeah.
Welding your
I think we
slag
should
might
look at some
burn into
options
it.
for that.
The welding
agree
your
with that.
slag, or cutting your slag might burn into it.
So,
That's a good I mean, any welding on top of any of those, or?
Yeah, you can do the welding on it. Yeah.
so, before we focus it, because I agree with you, Greg, that's a whole nother conversation on interior finishes. The only reason I brought that epoxy sample was just because there were some questions, I believe, last week, or last meeting, and I just wanted people to get a sense of what it is.
That's awesome.
But I think the idea, or today we would like to know is there a direction the committee would like us to move with the exterior of the building so that we can start
Do
putting
you
the work
need
in?
that answer today, or is there a timeline for that answer?
Well, if we could get it today, it would be great. Obviously, I mean, the longer it takes, the longer it takes. I think the big decision is going to be, do you want a clapboard look or do you want a panel? Because the panels are the panels are the panels. We're going to be putting panel up anyways. The only difference is it's how we detail that panel. Does it take a girt or a strapping on it so I can put a rain screen, or is it the finished product? That's all that really it translates to. You're going to get metal panel everywhere anyway, so it's just, do you want it the finished or not, and whether you want to expend the money to put the additional finish on that, because you want the clapboard look or you don't want the clapboard look. I may have preferences, but I think it's up to the committee to decide what their preference is. The other option I would just like to know is, are we going with a metal standing seam roof, or are we going with a shingled roof?
Metal roof. Pretty
Okay.
sure I speak for everybody in that, right? And, Ken, you got a question?
Yeah, that was my question. I'm just curious, is there a big cost difference between the metal and the conventional shingle?
Yes,
Yes, I mean,
But it lasts longer, doesn't it?
50 years versus 30.
Wind also rips up the
Yeah.
Yeah,
shingles.
I mean, I don't think
No.
I agree with Asa, metal is the way, and
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're unanimous there, in metal roof?
Yes.
Yes.
probably in the masonry too.
Say that again?
The masonry as well,
The mason.
Yes.
seems unanimous.
I mean, are you all basically okay with the masonry we've shown on the renderings where, like, between the doors to simplify the door jambs, we're running it all the way to the top? We've lowered it at the office area, and on the side, we tried to make a transition so it aesthetically looks nice.
Yeah.
So that would be the goal. And again, we don't have to pick the masonry color tonight. As long as I know you're happy with the masonry, that's good. And then at the last minute, if you guys decide, I want a red brick or something, we can go with that. So is the masonry acceptable as shown?
Yeah.
Okay. What about the windows? We good with the fiberglass windows?
Yeah, I'm fine with the fiberglass
Yeah,
windows.
I think it's a great choice.
Okay.
And Catherine?
Yes, I'm fine with them also.
I'm fine with them.
Okay.
So it sounds like the only real big decision you have to make, and again, it's not gonna really impact me tonight if you don't get it to me, but the sooner the better, is what do you wanna do with the clapboard look? Do you just like the metal panel with a slight texture in it, with the, like, orange peel finish on it and a slight ribbing? Do you wanna wait to see Whitman, see how that looks? Or do you want us to start considering we're gonna put some type of rain screen on it? It sounds like what I'm hearing is nobody's in love with hardy panel.
I'm torn a little bit.
But this is, and what this isn't for curb appeal, we're not out here where we wanna make the road look nice and mainstream.
Yeah,
This is
that's
an
true.
industrial work and.
That's a good point.
Well, again, I'm gonna, as we looked at earlier designs of what you guys had done, there seemed to be a consensus to make it more Cape-looking.
Mhm.
And that was, I think, combination design and materials. I think the current design actually helps the material choice, because now I think we have options.
Mhm.
I think maybe waiting to see Whitman and maybe other people to go up and look at the DPW building.
Yeah.
In my consensus, from my end, would be to, just do the metal panel,
Mhm.
call it a day, because I think the building will look great with it.
Yeah.
And I think it simplifies the detailing.
And
It should
saves money.
simplify the cost.
Mhm.
You
Um,
have some pictures of Whitman you could send in the interim before,
Um,
close-up
hang
pictures?
on, do we have anything now?
Any strong opinion?
Can you
on
go
it?
on to bid docs?
What's that?
Any strong feelings as well?
Can you get on the internet on this?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's hooked up. You can hop on Edge or whatever.
Bottom of the taskbar.
Yeah, I definitely feel like leaning towards the metal panel for simplicity, for maintenance, for, all the reasons that
Yeah.
we would.
Now, look, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's like with all these metal panels, and it's like with anything. If some kid decides to go and throw rocks at the metal panel, you could potentially dent the metal panel, okay? You run a backhoe or something into it, you're gonna dent the metal panel. It's not as easy to fix and replace as like a hardy panel, because you can because they're a progressive system. But over the years, we have not found that to be a major issue, because we put the masonry up high enough so that you're
Yeah.
not hitting it. And then hopefully you're not having vandals throwing rocks at it. I assume there's gonna be some camera system, so you'll know whether
don't
Phil's
really have a
throwing the
vandal
rocks or
problem
not.
here, do you?
No, well, we've had,
think so.
yeah, it's a long story, but we've had some issues there, but nothing.
Mike, do you remember your
Not
password, or you
recent,
want mine?
absolutely.
Do you want me to give you mine?
We did
What
recently
what
have
does
a-
it look like to replace one of those panels? Like, say something.
It's hell.
It doesn't look pretty.
Not good,
It's it. So the
It's
easiest,
progressive.
but you can't
You can't
pull
take
a
one panel out.
out.
the
and put a
easiest
panel
thing
there.
that we have found is you get like Bondo, like auto body, and you go in and you patch it up. It does less damage than you trying to pull a, because understand, these panels are gonna be 20 feet tall.
Yeah, right.
So you're not just taking out that little dent, you're taking in 20-foot section, you're busting up the joint. So my attitude is, go in with Bondo if it's really that bad and fix it up.
And Whitman is metal panels, it's not,
It is metal panels. So Mike is pulling that up now. And Mike, I think we might have some Hudson as well.
Yeah.
No.
Might be interesting to see the rendering with these materials in different color schemes.
Right.
Is that, you can play with those, right?
Yeah, so what I
What's
would
the
ask
ship?
is, we do that a lot. The question is, you need to give me some colors that you want. Do you want hot pink for the upper, or do you like white? Do you want gray? Do you want red? I mean, we can do whatever colors is a relatively easy task. The point being is, I'm not gonna guess at colors because I don't know. To me, a barn red would not be a Cape look, I don't think. That's my
But
opinion.
bright white,
Yeah,
probably.
that's what
Bright
they did.
white, kind of a light
And
gray.
Color really isn't a driving factor on the specification or cost. I've actually had projects where we, do a mock-up with a full panel so you can see the
Wait, what
color
building is this?
on site.
Equipment.
Where's that?
It's under one of the canopies.
Oh, okay, but do you have one of the full elevations?
Yeah, I was just.
So,
trying to get-
yeah, so, what I, see, this is what Mike was, thank you, Mike, for showing us. But this is why we're saying that we would show a little more rib with the orange peel finish on it. And then they have nice corners now. It used to, they had the crappy corners where you have to butt, where now they actually make molded corners that lock into the system, so you get a much cleaner corner than you used to. So Mike, if you can now go to
And
the,
the ceiling under the canopy is the
Yeah.
same.
that's, yes, okay.
Simple.
Commercial building.
Do we have any full elevations? I might, if you look at one of mine, Mike, uploads, I think I have some of those. Look for GKY on there. Yeah, try that last, go up, Mike, one. Yeah, why didn't you try those? 220, is that it? No, that's a little too early. Well, there, yeah, let's do that one, close enough. So. This is early, so that's what you will basically, so you see the metal panel sits on the, now, I'm never in love with the sill details quite like this. We have done it before where we can do a cast stone to make the seal so you don't have quite as much flashing, but there does have to be some type of cap flashing there on that. This is where I would probably spend the extra money to get a cast seal so that it looks nicer, especially if I'm walking up around the building.
It is, that's what I was asking,
Yeah.
it pitches a little bit, so it's not.
It pitches a little, yeah, but it wouldn't be made out of metal, it would be made out of that. Mike, I don't know, do you have the, and this is what I was talking about, you see, you kind of get these mix match of where the doors stop. That's why we try to get the masonry all the way up the doors, because it just, it's not as nice a detail as if you can clean it up.
Can you zoom in on that door jam?
Sure.
Mike?
And again, the doors aren't in, this is early on in the process, and of course, they haven't put in the final trims and everything. But, so, this is what you kind of get, is this kind of, like, now, we've done it different ways too, and we can do it either, we've actually turned the masonry into the jams, which is beautiful, it's nice. I'd spend money on that if you want. On the other hand, we can just run the metal down. And there is advantages and
Mike,
disadvantages
Can
to
the,
all of it.
can the people on the Zoom call, can they see that? You sharing
I'm
the
not sure.
screen? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, he's on top there, you can see the zoom.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're saying
You
they
can see
think
the
they
zoom
can
stuff
the
on
zoom.
top.
Yeah.
Ken, you can't see that, can you?
Yes, I can see it, I
Okay.
can see it.
So,
Okay.
You
Mike,
see the
can you
green
go to
and red on
Hudson
top?
now?
That's the
If you
zoom.
go to Hudson, I think we have, or do we have later photos of, I thought I put later, go up to the
So I
top.
can see it.
Didn't we have something in May? Keep going, up, look for Greg, keep going. Is that it?
516.
Or maybe I just haven't uploaded them yet. So if we go to Hudson now. Because I think you have some Mike photos, and I think I have some Hudson photos. Yeah, Mike, why don't we do that entrance, that's the under construction. Neil, I swear we have better photos of it. So there's what Hudson looks like. So in this case, they have a white Aircraft product, they have a red brick, and then as you move up, you can get that. Again, but that's just the direct panel.
So why is it you like that ribbed look opposed to a flat
It just
panel?
seems to give a little relief so it doesn't oil can look or something. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. This is the side of, Hudson. Again, you can see the panel, you see some of the seams, you can get them in like, 32, 36, 48, 42 panels and stuff. And then Mike, we don't have any front photos, do we? remember. But again, I don't know, does this, from the distance in the landfill, if this were a white panel or a light gray panel, is the clapboard going to add that much? Because Greg, I kind of agree with you, the form of the building with the pitched roofs and everything kind of give you that Cape look without literally having to put the materials on there.
No, we don't have any.
It's also the proportion between the windows and the
Yes.
masonry, it's just not a lot there anymore.
Right, so,
Yeah, that's a good point.
again,
There's-
and
there's
obviously
not a
this
lot.
masonry isn't washed or
No,
anything yet.
I don't know.
Mike, I don't have any other
It's
photos
simpler.
up there, is
Yeah.
that, I thought I put some up, I don't know what's happening, maybe I just, no, I believe you, Mike.
I think just from a cleaning perspective alone.
Oh, yeah, hey, Mike, why don't you just pull up one of these photos, like a 922 with the liner panel showing, yeah, that's great, okay, so this is what happens on the building, so this is all getting masonry, so this is what we call the liner panels. So as you can see, it's just the standard insulated metal panel, screwed in and everything, and then this is where all the brick goes over it. So that's how we keep the building envelope very tight and then very energy efficient. So the whole building will be lined with these metal panels. You just don't see them because they're either covered with brick or if you just choose to do with the clapboards.
Brick?
Yeah, that's all that brick.
But we were looking at metal panels or clapboard.
I understand. What I'm trying to say though is we were talking about how the metal panels will go all the way. So behind the brick will be this metal panel. Then the finished metal panel sits on top of it, and that's why you have that little seal, because you take that airspace and that brick dimension.
And that connection between the masonry, well, is it metal all the way to the floor,
Yep.
to the bottom,
Yes.
and then the masonry's on top?
Yes.
Yep.
And then that seam on the sill, the bottom sill, by the dirt,
Yep.
that's what I was mentioning earlier, is that the vectors, little micey.
Yeah, no,
whatever.
so what we do is we would put weep holes in there, okay? So it's a solid brick wall, and the mice have to climb through the mesh in a mortar joint.
The bottom two courses are grouted solid
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
and flashed. There's a counter
Maybe you could
flash.
just circulate a few details that you've done before, might
Yeah.
give people a better understanding of the
I
system.
don't, Mike, do we have anything on this with the masonry? I don't remember if we had. No.
Yeah, just,
Yeah, I think some wall sections of what you've done before would be helpful for people.
Or do they? Yeah, Mike, why didn't, yeah, I don't know, can we zoom in on that one, Mike, and go down, up one more, I think, yeah, that one. I don't know if you can zoom in. Yeah, so you'll see right there, there's the seal flashing there, that gray flashing, so that's where all the weeps are and everything. So everything below that is grouted solid.
right.
Okay. And then, what you can't see very well, but if you see, there would actually be little weep joints, like 24 inches on center, between that masonry. So if any of the water gets behind the masonry, runs down the metal panel, hits the flashing, and spills out. Okay. We have never heard of any mice problems in this construction. I know they can get into anything. Have you had problems with mice? They just, the mice don't find the metal and concrete quite as attractive as the wood.
Mm.
Yeah, so, the seagulls I can't speak to. I haven't had a lot of seagull experience.
But again, Alan Bliss from Flynn, you talked to him,
Yeah.
they are the company for the solid waste facility, so they can tell you how they can clip them on and all.
Yeah, so. But anyway, I'm sorry we don't have better photos. We weren't expecting necessarily to pull all the photos out, but I think you can get an idea of what happens. I think on Hudson, because you guys are going with the Cape look, I would probably say I would put a nice sill on there and not just use the metal. I would do a cast stone so that that looks nice. And I think, as Greg suggested, going with just the metal panel could be fine for this project.
The orange peel.
Yeah, I think Greg makes a good point, and I'm just sort of looking at the elevation views here, and there's really just not a lot of wall space there. You know, I mean, we've got a lot of windows. I mean, I still would like to go to Whitman. I think I'm pretty comfortable going with a metal panel, though. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, if they want to go out and look at DPW, if they want to look at Whitman. But
Thank you, Mike.
I'm open to either direction, but I think the metal panel makes sense.
I would tend
Full
to agree.
masonry in the back looks better than the split that you had with
Mhm.
Whitman, or
Yeah.
whatever it was, Hudson.
Yes.
We stopped halfway up.
Yeah.
This
Yeah, it
looks
just,
nice.
just looks more substantial for your operation,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And see, the nice thing is, when that sill condition happens up 16 feet high, all of a sudden you don't see it because it's not at eye level. As we always like to say, wherever you touch the building should feel really high quality. Okay? And the rest can be, and I always used to talk about like St. Peter's, those of you who've been to St. Peter's, you'll see in St. Peter's, they have a 150-foot high column. And everybody goes, aren't those beautiful marble columns? Well, the popes weren't stupid. The marble only goes up the first 20 feet. The other 130 feet above that is all painted plaster. Because why put the money where you're not going to see it or need it? And so, yes, so whoever you make the point, I think it was you, Greg, that said, bringing the masonry up makes it look much more substantial and gets rid of that kind of clunky detail where the seal goes in.
It's just
I
not
think
a
it
lot
takes
of-
away the potential issue for damage where you would have the damage.
Right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of clabbering that you would need to see on the front anyway, like you're saying.
Right.
It's different.
No, it's minimal.
I don't think white is what you want, but probably something.
No, the color thing is that's kind of another.
Yeah, we can
another day,
pick
I
that
think.
up.
I mean, I do suggest that, you know, we spec a mock-up where you get one panel,
Mhm.
and it's a lot better to see it in the daylight out in the sun, and
Darker roof though.
well, I'd do a light gray myself. I wouldn't
Darker
do
than the
white.
building.
Yeah.
color, yeah.
Because understand, you are going to have gall droppings
Yeah.
all over that roof.
Even Galvy, I've done just the Galvy look before,
Just straight Galvy, no.
yeah.
Blind the helicopters going into that Otis.
I think there's a lot of colors. There's probably about 5 different shades of gray that you can pick from. And again, it's something, we can pick colors at any time. You can even pick them after the bids has been awarded, because that's not
Yep.
the driving factor, it's just the materials. I would say they will make custom colors for you. On the other hand, I probably
don't
wouldn't
have to
get
go
hung
there.
up on custom
No.
colors, because it's just not. And it doesn't matter whether Bruchka or whether Falk or whether Metal Span, they all have some variations of a gray. It might be slightly off of the one that you pick, but I think you can get the whole building to work.
I'm sure we can come up with a standard color that we can all agree on.
Town color is purple, but I don't think that would work.
I've never done a purple building.
I'm fine with going with metal panel, as long as everybody else is all set with that, and they wouldn't want to go see Whitman first or something like that, so.
I'm okay either way, but it doesn't hurt to wait a little and go look. You know, you like to see what the options are.
Okay, all right. Can you give us some dates to go to Whitman?
You tell me what dates you want to go, and I will make arrangements for it.
Is that how we left it last time? I forgot.
Yeah,
how we-
Mondays and Fridays are best for me, but it, or afternoons on Tuesdays and Wednesdays are good. Thursdays are not a good day for me. But again, I don't necessarily need to be there. If my schedule doesn't work, Mike can take you there. I know Neil's familiar with it as well. So I would think as a committee, you should decide first what's a good time for you, and then we will make sure that they're notified. And like I said, if you want to take a slightly further road trip, I would also say you should go up to Hudson and see that.
What do they have?
They have a similar building, red brick, it sits entirely in the,
Of the metal panels.
they have the metal panels, yes, and,
Where is that? Is that in Central Mass?
no, it's just,
Right off of Marlboro.
Just east of Worcester.
Next,
yeah,
Near Marlboro.
Marlboro, it's literally right next
That's
door to
not,
Marlboro.
that's off 185.
Yes. Yeah. It's probably about
About
5 to 10
about an
minutes
hour
off.
and 15 minutes from
Yeah.
here.
I
about 9.
go to Marlboro, yeah, 185.
But if you leave with the site, you might get your per diem, so you can get your $5 to buy that Big Mac meal. Oh, you can't even buy a Big Mac for that. You could get probably a kid's meal at McDonald's if you put your per diem for $5, right?
All right, so where are we now? We got, the last number, item 4 was load letters for electrical.
Yeah.
Can we
had talked about
kick that to the next?
needing load letters in order to get the applications into the various utilities, electric and gas.
Okay.
I don't think we have those yet.
We do not. So what you've just done today is very helpful for this, because now I can put the building wall sections, we can get the glazing, because basically what I'm hearing is the overall aesthetic for the building is fine. Yes, we can change a few windows and everything, but we can now do the comp checks on this and get the calculations running on that. And if they tweak a little, they tweak a little, but this has been very helpful, so thank you.
And you need from us still wall, we need to choose a wall, and we need to choose colors at this point, right?
Again, because you've chosen a roof,
Yeah.
okay, you've given me, we're gonna have metal panel anyway, so whatever you stick on the outside, hardy panel or what, it doesn't matter, I have the building envelope already taken care of. So, as far as I'm concerned, Mike, unless we're missing something, we are in good shape
Okay.
to get to your building
So
envelope.
you are good to continue.
We are good to
moving
continue,
forward.
we're going to proceed with this design, and again, does not mean that we can't tweak some things a little, later on, but it sounds like the basic footprint, the basic layout, the basic aesthetic, heights and everything are all good to go.
Okay, good. All right, we will get you some dates to go up to Whitman, and I will start working on that tomorrow. I'll send out an email to everybody. The work plan, I think, I know Catherine, she had to leave, but I'd like, we'll keep that on for the next agenda. I don't think we're gonna have any issues with it. I think it kind of meets all of what we're looking to do here, so. And the reason being is we're at 2 hours here, and I just wanna show you guys, I don't know, did any of you open that video? Were you able to get into that video?
I opened it earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't able to open it.
Okay, so I'd like to play that for everybody, because I would, I'll sort of preface this by, what we did was we did some drone footage, we did some ground shots, and one of the guys at the landfill who has, video production experience, put this together using a voiceover that, we wrote a voiceover and produced it with AI. So some of the language is a little bit, like when they say ISWM's a little funny, but I think it's a good, introduction to the landfill for people to see and kind of get them thinking about, oh, something's happening here, and it'll be a good, informative video for them, and then we can build on it as we go. So I think I have it open already, Mike?
Dorothy's is staying, Peter. In
All
case
right.
you hear any noise. Dorothy's is staying.
I saw the site plan, I'm all set.
Windows
People have
Explorer
been- I've
should
been
be
hearing
open.
I know it.
Thank you.
I
That will
told
never go away.
Dorf more popular than even the Blue Barrels,
It
or
is
just the
the-
same.
Yeah, there you go, there you go.
Yeah. This is amazing.
At the Department of Integrated Solid Waste Management, a new chapter begins as the facility expands and continues to serve the local community, region, and environment with decades of disposal, recycling, and reuse options. The Integrated Solid Waste Management Facility and landfill recently went through an extensive permitting process, resulting in the town's ability to develop and utilize the entire site footprint, which will extend the life of the landfill 15 to 20 years. As a result of the permitting expansion, the final boundaries of the operation have been established, allowing the staff to maximize landfill capacity and place permanent structures in areas that cannot be utilized for waste disposal. This expansion requires facility infrastructure to be moved and rebuilt in areas outside of the landfill footprint on the lot directly south of the residential area. Construction of a new office and maintenance garage, an updated transfer station, and an updated residential recycling center will be required to accommodate the expansion. This project will begin with construction of the new office and maintenance garage first. Site preparation, engineering, and architectural design is already underway with proposed major construction beginning in early 2026, pending a town meeting vote. The new office will provide the needed space for administrative staff functions, while the garage will provide updated, safe, and useful space and equipment needed to support and maintain ongoing operations and provide much-needed storage. The ISWM Building Committee, with the help of ISWM staff, Helene Carl Architects and Construction Monitoring Services have been tasked with overseeing this building's function, design, and construction. The building is proposed to have a useful life of 50 years, providing useful town infrastructure far past the life of the landfill. And as ISWM is an enterprise fund, This project will be funded entirely through revenue generated by facility operations. More information can be found at the ISWM Department and ISWM Building Committee website, or by reaching out to the ISWM staff.
Realize you guys.
Yeah, did a nice job on that, Asa.
Yeah, great job.
I think it's great. I have one
Pretty amazing.
comment though. Future residential area. Almost sounds like you're building houses there down the road.
That's actually, Bill, you get a pat on the back there. You said there should be future residential recycling center.
Yes.
Residential
Yes.
areas.
Right,
My
right.
first thought was you're building houses out in the,
Yeah, 40B, we're gonna do 40B now. Well, it's funny that.
Kudos to Phil on that.
Definitely residential recycling center / Dorothy's, you know.
Yeah,
And,
right.
aside from that, I think it's short, sweet, to the point, and gets the message across well.
I really truly, we've done tours during the beginning, and did you type in the word EYE, to get ice?
Yeah, it's weird. If you notice, it changes the way it enunciates it a little bit. That's all written exactly the same way. The AI sort of develops like a sort of an affect. You know, it's really weird.
What if you just spell it out instead of using the?
So we tried ISWM and it came out really. Then we tried EYE ISWM or SWIM or I-SWIM. So we got to tweak it a little bit, but it's pretty close. You know, I mean, it kind of gets.
Yeah,
You know.
really.
We used to do
But
tours.
Point well taken, and we'll fix that.
We had a little council on aging bus, and for like the first 15 years, we would do an open house, and it was really popular, and then I kind of ran through most of the people that came down the residential, like, okay, we've seen it all. But I think there's gonna be a whole new, when they see the aerial, this is gonna be blowing people away. I don't think they've really seen the full site like that. It's amazing video. I'm.
No,
Yeah,
it's
well-
very,
well
very
done.
professional
It's
looking.
awesome. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
he did a nice job. He was going to be here tonight, actually. He couldn't make it, but.
You know, even for me, seeing along the eastern boundary by where the new drainage basin is gonna go, I hadn't been out to that corner yet, and it looks awesome. Guys are doing a great job.
So what we'd like to do, with everybody's blessing, is put it into Dorothy's. I've got a mount on the wall, and I was going to put a TV in the wall in Dorothy's, because Dorothy's gets, as all of you know, and it's our swap shop, gets a ton of traffic.
I'm thinking
Might
literally-
drive some people crazy because it'll play on a loop, or maybe we can figure something out. But the guy, they're just have to listen to it all day, or maybe we turn it on and off. And then on the website, obviously. So
We may literally, Asa, might want to call it the Residential Recycling Center Swap Shop, and then have that in the script, just to avoid, because we've already heard the rumor mill, you're taking away Dorothy's. I've heard Dorothy's is going away. How
I
that
don't know who
gets
said
started,
that, but we never said it would
when it
happen.
gets out there, I've heard
Post
people
on
say
town
that.
social media at all?
It's
or-
just strange, Peter, you know how things get.
Yeah, they make up their
we
own.
don't have a Facebook site, but I think if we just put it on the ISWM department website, the building committee website, and then have it in Dorothy's.
We have a link to the building committee on our site, and we also have a slideshow if we wanted to do a couple of pictures, stills, in our slideshow, we could do that too.
If you do a link, it's on
What
the
about
town's website, we
Bourne
can take it
TV?
and put it on Facebook.
Oh,
Well, I'm just
actually, yeah.
thinking you're waiting for,
Like the YouTube videos on.
yeah, or you're waiting for the selectmen's meeting, instead of having the,
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
So Asa,
And cable TV too, we can,
That's
Voting on
that's
anything,
what-
Asa?
Bourne TV, yeah.
Just gotta run. Are we voting on anything?
No, what else do we have left? Next meeting? I think that's it. If we're all right with that, everybody's good with putting that out there. A motion to, let's just. Next meeting, 2 weeks from today?
what is the agenda?
June 5th?
What's next on your work plan?
Well, tomorrow we will compile all my notes. We will probably have a kickoff meeting with the team next week. And what I would like to do is hunker down for like a good month to really start hammering out the details, because then I can come back with a productive discussion. And obviously, we can talk in between, but then we can get sizes for like generators, we can get the loads, we can get plans, so that would be my suggestion, so that we can get like at least a good schematic.
So just to
TV.
put it into context, right, big picture, if we waited a month, didn't meet till the 23rd of June.
Right.
We would be looking at 6 to 8 weeks before you'd be completed with the design, if we're going out to bid right after Labor Day. So how does that sit in your overall context, both with the committee as well as with you?
I think that works fine, because over the next 4 weeks, what we will have to do is, I will have to be hammering out details with Asa, Phil, and Dan. We'll be tweaking areas, we'll be putting in, making sure all the systems are in. We can start talking to IT, I can get Peter moving along. It will give us a good, solid schematic / DD package far enough along, because I know a lot of issues are gonna come up, that we're just gonna have to turn to, and again, we will reach out over that 4-week period. But then that would give us a good sense of what we need to do. Peter would have, like, for example, where the septic is going, any of the subsurface, or if we need to, if we're not. I mean, I'm just saying, it just gets us a chance to wrap our heads around all the details, and then we can come back with questions.
How does the committee feel about waiting a month before the next meeting? Reading body, English, Greg?
No, I'm kind of in agreement with him. He needs
Okay.
time to develop it, you know, having short intervals. My only concern is whether we're gonna be overwhelmed with, you know, things that we need to deal with. That would be my only concern.
So Greg, what I would see is we'd start putting all the building sections, plans together, structural framings, things that, you know, the committee can, you know, sink their teeth into. At the end of the day, whether you decide that you've gone out to Whitman, you would rather put clapboards back on than leave the panel, that's fine. We can make those adjustments. It would also then give us an opportunity to start identifying the interior finishes that need to be done, bringing some of those products, like showing the locker rooms, the Patriot lockers that we would propose. It will just, again, allow us to pull all of that together. I don't know if you'll necessarily be overwhelmed, because committee seems to be up to speed on everything now. So I would feel we could comfortably do it.
So the other issue is voting on the payment, right? We
That's what I was
obviously
gonna
don't
say.
want to go out that far.
I was gonna suggest that maybe we have just a Zoom-only meeting in, like, say, 2 weeks.
That's fine.
I'll send out the contracts. I can put on the invoices. We still have to, you know, go through the work plan. I know Catherine, you know, wanted to look at that and digest that a little bit. Just a couple items. I think we can do it in a Zoom meeting, and then the next in-person meeting will be that longer term.
If there's something you think you could move into that meeting, that might be
Sure.
something simple that would get out of the way.
2 weeks from now would be, what's that?
June 5th.
Yeah.
June 5th, okay.
Yep. Right, did I do that right?
3:30 again, Zoom?
That's good for everybody?
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing. What's the next meeting?
So Ken, we were looking at June 5th, Zoom-only meeting, just to deal with the project invoices, approve the invoices, approve the work plan, and any other miscellaneous things that come up between now and then that we can add onto that meeting. But, you know, we wouldn't be in person, it'd be Zoom only here.
Right. And then the next in-person meeting?
We're working that out. We're
22nd? I'm sorry. Let me look at the calendar again. 12th, 19th?
19th is a holiday.
Oh, Juneteenth, 26th? So the 5th, Zoom only, 26th, hybrid.
Yep.
Okay.
3:30 both.
What's the 26th, a Thursday or a Tuesday?
Thursday.
Okay, good.
The 6th.
And then, I don't know if somebody can remind, I don't know off the top of my, the October town meeting is, do we have a date on that yet?
I guess it's
Not
no
definitive.
We haven't set it yet. We won't do it, set it before August. Probably
second week.
late, probably closer, right after Columbus Day or around there. You know, that, like the
Okay.
week.
So the reason I just want to confirm that is, because I think the last meeting we had, the discussion was, this project is not going out on the street until it goes to town meeting.
Yeah,
So,
The 20th is the third Monday,
that's probably more realistic.
so
Probably no earlier than that, but I can't speak for the board.
okay.
Because we gotta set, around that time, we gotta set the tax rate and everything else, so So, I mean, that's gonna be left. Erica will probably be the one, and Marlene will be the one that
In
will,
October is the
Yeah,
month.
yeah.
So Neil, that basically gives us 5 months. So that, this 1 month to get us to a good, DD stage, I think leaves us plenty of time, because that would still leave us 4 months after that. Because if you vote, say, on October 20th to proceed with the project, that means it would hit the street probably a week or so after that.
Yeah, I apologize. I
You were
got my
thinking-
projects
Yes.
mixed up. We are not going to bid until after the vote.
Correct,
You're
okay.
right.
I just wanted to thank you.
I feel better now. Thank
Yes,
you.
Okay, so anyway, so we do have, so let us get our, everything done in the first month, ask all the big questions. You guys, if you think of additional questions, we can kind of hammer that out. Then we still have 4 months after that to polish the package. And in between that, probably like in, I'm going to guess in September, or late August, early September, we'll probably release the pre-qual package, just because that takes, say 4 weeks to get through. Then we'll be geared up for as immediately after town meeting. If it's approved, we can just hit the streets. And that still keeps us on the basic schedule of getting you started in construction in March.
We still have we have those permitting items, we gotta get. through.
Yes, we'll go through it, and those,
Planning, zoning.
yes,
yeah.
exactly.
I think, planning, we're pretty close to being able to file that.
Right, but there, Peter's gonna need to run
He
his
needs more
stuff.
developed site
Yeah.
plans.
Peter typically needs about 4 to 6 weeks to develop site plan. Now that we basically have everything, and I will probably be firing some plans off to you, Asa, just to make sure, because now we'll start seeing the gradings, put more crosswalks. So I do
Yeah,
think we have
definitely.
adequate time, and I think we're in good shape on this one.
One other thing, Division 0 and Division 1 documents to the town.
Yes, I will send those to the town.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, get over to council. Right.
Sooner is always better.
During this month, we will be in communication, so for example, like with Barnstable County IT and with the Flynn Pest, those are details, and we'll have enough
Yes.
now to chew on to go into,
Yes.
okay, great.
We've got a meeting with Barnstable IT a week from tomorrow.
Okay?
So I will likely send these over to them. Well, I'll send them tomorrow, so they have them for our next meeting, and we'll generate some comments. And if anything comes up, we'll bring it up at that
Right.
next Zoom meeting.
And then I would say that in the July timeframe, August, we definitely sit down with IT and get it, because every IT group that I work with, we're still changing things during
Yeah.
punch list.
Yeah.
And it's
That would
like, we're trying to
include-
avoid that.
You could work in, again, you want to build into the ports for camera mounts and things like
Right.
that.
Peter, anything else?
No,
Tom?
Nope.
Greg?
No, good meeting.
Ken?
I'm good.
Anybody else?
to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ken?
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you, everyone.